All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to our first month of Outlander Readalong. This is going to be our book club. So we got through the first book. Hopefully everybody did. Hopefully everyone made it through. If you didn't, well, maybe we'll convince you by talking about it today. But we have a full panel up here, so I'll have them introduce themselves, and then we're going to be going through the questions that were like in the book club discussion questions, but we might veer off depending on what people want to talk about. But yeah, the first thing, people who are watching and commenting, if you want to start putting in the comments, like if this was your first time reading or you've read it 15 times or been reading it since 1990, whatever, go ahead and throw that in and I'll share those comments as we go. But well, y'all know me because it's my channel, but we'll go over this way and have everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Becky from Bex Reads. I love Outlander. It's a reread for me. It was my favorite book of all time for the longest time, but sadly it got demoted. But it still is in like my top 10. But I haven't reread it in 16 years, so it was fun to reread it again.
Oh, that's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Julia from Julia Reads Romance. It's my reread too. I think I read it like 3 years ago. Was the first time I read it. I love Outlander.
Hi, I'm Steph. I don't have a YouTube channel. I watch the Book Refuge a lot, and I'm a Patreon and a channel member. This was my second read of Outlander, so a reread. And I think I read it when I was like 18, so it's been a while.
I'm Amber. Amber Reads Romance. This is a reread for me. I actually read it the first time when the show just started. So, and I couldn't believe I was like, didn't even know about it. Same with Game of Thrones was for me. But so this is a reread for me and still love it. It's still amazing. Still love Jamie.
Hi, I'm Crystal from Books Forever After here on YouTube. This is my first time reading Outlander, so I feel like a virgin over here.
Yay! We're so happy. Just like Jamie.
Right? But I did, I was actually introduced to Outlander by the show first. So I think I've gone up to like season 4 or 5. And then I felt like because I'm a staunch, like I need to read the book first before a show. I didn't realize it was a book when I was watching this show. So of course. So it was interesting to read it the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't even say, I figured everybody like knew, which is arrogant of me to say, but like, yeah, I read it with the show for the first time too. I finished the first season and I was like, I need to know what happens. So I then read, but yeah, this is my like third. It's like my 5th time reading this book, but I've read the series twice completely all the way through. So,
wow.
Yeah. So let's see what a couple people say. Hi, Claudia. I'm so glad you made it to join us. Thanks so much. Ooh, eating some food and ready to watch. Oh, I love it. I love it. I almost had wine, but like I get so flushed under my lights when I drink. So sometime I will, but I would love to have a drink, but then I just get like burning up by the time we're done. Finished like 20 minutes ago. Love it. Love it. It'll be nice and fresh. Nice and fresh. Yeah, Nicole, I love using a fancy name. So I love that Julia did it too. Julia. I logged in and I was like, oh, I guess I can't use that name.
Oh.
I
was like, I don't know. I was like thinking of names.
I love
like,
it. I love that you did it. I love when everybody gets into it. So I was like, sweet. First time read. That's right, Stacy. This is your first time. Alicia, it's a reread. This is your 10th time. Love it. Second reread.
10 times. That's
but you
amazing.
never made it through the whole series. Okay. Well, I hope you stick with us. I know. Thanks for hosting. It's your first time. Awesome. I'm so glad to see so many people. It's their first time. That makes me so happy. Looking forward to it. It's a reread. 3rd time. Oh, and then you watched season. First time was after. Oh, okay. Same as a lot of us. Gave it a reread about 4 times, but you haven't read the entire series. Sweet. Yeah, it's a big commitment. I understand. TV show introduced you to us. I'd love to know what book. Oh yeah, what's your favorite book now, Becky? What beat it?
Radiance by Grace Draven.
Wonderful book too.
Oh, I love that book.
That's true. Well, and you said you read it 16 years ago, so it's fair that something passed it up.
It was only recently. I think it was like 2021 maybe I read Radiance. So
like it had its throne for like a decade.
it had its moment. Let me tell you.
Watch the TV show, but the first time reading it. Oh, cool, Jenn. I love that you gave it a go. This is your third reread. Nice. And Eric too. Sweet. Okay, cool. All right. Well, we do have a lot of questions to get through, and I don't want to keep everybody here all night. So we'll get started with some of these. I didn't make a different question card for everyone this time, like I've done before, mostly because I was too lazy this time. But I do have my question sheet. And if any of you watching want to follow along, it's in the Discord listed there. So to get this started, I don't even have a question one for this. Let's just ask the people reading it for the first time, what did you think of it? And I guess, Crystal, you get to be the one to take that for the panel anyway. So tell us what you thought of this.
Well, obviously I love Jamie, so no. I think what I do appreciate about experience is that the show really they did a great job with the show, because like I was picturing a lot of the show and things in certain scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it. The only thing was difference experience for me was it felt more historical fiction than I'm used to historical romance, where the romance felt like a subplot, and I wanted more of the interactions between Jamie and Claire. So much more. But
fair.
and then sometimes like the writing felt a little technical because of that. So I felt like I was losing time. So like, wait, how did I miss that? And then I had to go back to remember that. Besides everything though, I think I loved Jamie, and it just made me like really like his sister even more as well, because like she was like a badass in the show, but like this whole in the book, I just love Jenny so much.
Yeah. I see that is one actress too. I hear her voice so clearly when I read her stuff. Like, she did so good. Laura Donnelly, I think is her name. She does so good. Oh, I just love her.
Do you ever find yourself like speaking Scottish in your head when you're reading this book?
Yeah. Cannot speak it out loud, but because of the show, I at least know what the words are. Like dinner, like all the Scottish things, I definitely can feel it with that.
I wish we had Jamie narrating it though.
Oh, right.
Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful.
When I was watching Beck's like reel that she did, and it was like her like, in the shower with like Jamie Fraser's voice on in the background. I'm like, I guess it's all from Claire's POV, so it'd be kind of hard unless they did like a dual, or like a full cast. But I'm like, I want their voices.
Yeah. I wish they did for like the future books, because not a spoiler for anyone, but we do get other people's POVs eventually. They'll be her, not to.
Oh, okay.
But I do wish that for the narration that we had some others. But I mean, so that was a question too. I saw someone who like had to stop the audiobook. And I just wondered how that was for some people. I know Diana Porter won't work for everyone, because it is an elderly woman who's reading it. And even Claire, like, she's not elderly when this series starts. She's only 27. No. But I honestly though do hear her voice for Jamie sometimes. Especially like her Jamie voice was pretty hot in my opinion later on. But that's just me, because like that, but let's see here.
Yeah, I think I liked reading it physically more than I liked the audiobook because of the voice, the narration.
Yeah, hearing Jamie in her head.
It was my first, well, it wasn't my first time listening to this audiobook, because I've listened to other audiobooks in the series, but she doesn't sound like Claire to me, and it drove me a little crazy, but I'm like, I need to get this read.
Yeah, if we could get her voice too, from the show. Like, her voice is just so...
Right.
My cat's down here meowing. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah. I listened to the 9th book mostly because when it came out,
Okay.
I didn't have time to read as much as with the other ones. So I agree with that of like,
I think the technical part too with have the narrator, and it kind of what made it struggle with the narrator is like at the same time Claire is a doctor. She's very clinical. So I
mhm.
think that also maybe impacted the point why the historical fiction piece is feeling very historical fiction
Yeah,
because of her point of view.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's fair. I think some context to add to this can't affect how you read is how you read it, but because Diana she was a researcher before she was a writer, and so I believe that you'll see throughout the series too, where when we're going to go into a detail, that you'll get the whole historical context of something because you can almost feel that like, oh, I found this interesting piece of history, and I must give it all of it to you right now, which we're just like, okay, moving on.
It's also why it takes her like 20 years to write a book.
I also fact checked something because I was like, is this true? I don't know. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, so they taught us wrong at history. That's really, really weird.
I like that. That's cool. I agree. I love her Jamie voice. Kind of weird. I know, Sarah. Like I'm just saying, I'm telling you, especially older Jamie. There's just a rasp that she puts into him where I'm just like, I get chills when I listen to it. But I like reading them as well because I do hear the voices of the show. They don't always act the way I want them to, but I do hear the voices, and I think casting was very good.
Oh yeah,
They did a great job with the
cat.
cast.
Except for Brianna, but we won't talk about that. Some of you did, like, we won't talk about that right now. She's grown on me. It only took 5 seasons for her to grow on me, but it was one of my biggest problems. But okay, cool.
Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just want to ask, did you watch till like the recent season in the TV series?
No, I think I went when they're in America.
You said season 4, right?
Yeah, I think it's season 4 when they're in America. I think I started maybe it was in a year and I didn't have Stars, so then I went back and then they had it on Netflix. So I think I went to season 4, I think for sure, but maybe a couple episodes in season 5. So I want to rewatch that. Now I want to. Yeah, it's on Netflix. I want to rewatch the season 1 because I'm like, oh wait, okay, I just read the book. I'm like, was that in the show? I was like, I don't remember if that was in the show. And so I'm like, now I want to watch the show to be like the certain pieces that I don't remember, like the water horse. I'm like, was that in there? So yeah.
There's actually another read along going on that they're doing it, and they're doing a show watch with the read, which of course you guys are all welcome to do. And I just don't need to talk about both every time. It'll take us long enough to talk about the book. But I had just rewatched season 1 recently when I just was wanting to, and I'm like, oh yeah, season 1's good. Season 1's really good.
I love season 1 the best. I think.
It's
just
so
like it's so beautiful, and all the Scottish people. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really great.
Feels very mystical, especially with that's what it felt like.
It's so beautiful.
I haven't read the latest.
Bees.
Oh, the newest book? Yeah.
No, the latest episode series season.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I'm not caught up on. So
okay, well, we're not going to talk about the showy book. She was making a compare. We got to keep going. The show.
We haven't got to the book yet.
I know. I was like, we were just asking people how they were doing, and everyone's saying like the water horse of the show. I'm pretty sure we see they talk about it. I remember it with her and Ned. Like they talk about it. You don't full on see it shown in the book, but I think it's there. But
I thought the waterhouse thing was really funny. It's like Diana was researching, and it's like, since it's my book, I'm just gonna put the Loch Ness monster, inside, just because I can.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into some of the gritties here. So with part 1, let's go through some of these. So, what was our first thoughts of our married couple at the beginning? What did everyone think of Frank and Claire as they start this hopeful second honeymoon of our lovely Frank and Claire, unsuspecting, going to Scotland? What do we think?
I'm ambivalent. I don't care about Frank.
Sure.
I don't like him. I don't hate him. He's just there.
Yeah.
I don't really feel any chemistry between him and Claire whatsoever at any point.
Yeah.
But I feel like he does a lot of foreshadowing.
Yeah. Do you think that's coming from you're like, so many years into liking it? Can you remember back to your first? Because that's what I want to know too, is people of the first time. Because on a
the
reread,
first time I read it, I was bored.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how quickly he's gone. Like to me, it feels so much more significant, the stuff with him. And then I reread it, I'm like, literally, it's like 30 pages, and then we're going. So
Yeah, he's not there a whole lot.
I think the first time I read it, I thought he was in it too long, and I was like bored.
Because
the first time,
I agree.
I'm like, can we get to Jamie?
Yeah. It took me so long to get through those first couple parts when I first tried to read it, because I was like, oh.
I almost DNF'd it the first time I read it.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law told me to read it, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm bored. She's like, no. Keep reading until she goes back, and then you'll be hooked. And she was right.
Yeah.
Crystal, how about you?
I ambivalent, but I think at the same time there was something that he was saying about, I don't think I could love my own child, like a child that wasn't my own, and that like bothered me.
Yes.
A lot. I'm like, dude,
that bothers me too, girl.
Okay, I was like, why is this really like, dude, he is so not it. So I was just like, red flag.
It's such an anti-adoption statement. I know it's supposed to be the 40s or whatever, but I'm still like, no. Think of how many war orphans there are right now. You're such an ass. Like, that's what I thought. Right? Is I'm like, literally, you guys just survived. How many war orphans are there? And it's also an interesting comparison, because then there is Roger and like the preacher, like the Reverend. Jeez, I can't. The Reverend literally adopted a kid, so it's pretty interesting.
And like, she's struggling with infertility. Obviously, they're trying. So I'm like, that just makes her. I felt like that was putting more pressure on her, because make her feeling more inadequate. And I'm like, that's just cool.
Saw Frank is inattentive. I think it's hard to care about it until you know who they are. Yeah. It's way more interesting the second time. See, I agree with this. I was noting so many things about it, of just
but the way he like asks her, like, have you cheated on me? Would you cheat on me? And it's just sort of like foretelling that
like, dude, that he was okay with it, like that they were apart. And you're like, well, what were you doing? Well, I don't know. I didn't even remember that. I didn't even remember the whole like not wanting another, to adopt and stuff. So when I was reading it this time around, I was like, it was a lot more. I was like paying a lot more attention to Frank this time around. But
right. Folks adopted in the 40s. Frank's a jerk. Love it. As an adoptee, that was the first signal of how I would feel about him. Yeah, Jen, that's right. I didn't like Frank. Yep, Lizelle, totally fair. He's anti-adoption, but Claire herself is an orphan. That is a good point too. Yeah. That is a good point too. Didn't think of that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because she's basically adopted by her uncle.
Yeah.
Wow, what a douche, man. Just adding layers to it. I may be alone, but I like them. All right. Hey, Stacy, you rep it. It's all right. He's definitely stuck in his own head and more focused on history, but I like their banter. That's fair. See, of course, I'm colored by the future a little bit, right? But my opinion is like, I don't have anything really ick about him. It's not that I don't get any ick in the beginning. I just agree with the like, it's kind of boring. To me, I feel like they more got married in the heat of a moment of like how quickly things happen for them. And now they were in war, and it's like romantic to have like, oh, my man, he's off doing this. And now they're together. And it's like, we don't really have a lot alike. They were both going to be studious people doing their own things. Like, it's kind of clear already in this. Like, she's not mad. He wants to work on his stuff because she's like, you do that, honey. I'm going to do whatever, So I don't have any strong mean feelings about him when I read it. I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm not going to be sad when we have to leave you behind, is how I feel. So
this time around,
so Claire.
Go ahead, Julia.
This time around, like, I was really like looking at the scenes between Frank and Claire and like how they interacted with each other.
Yeah.
And I kind of noticed that, I don't know, Frank doesn't like whenever Claire goes into a room, he doesn't like look at her. Like he doesn't focus on her, you know? He's just distracted with his own like history stuff.
Sure.
And there was a scene where, do you remember like they visited someone's house and she burned her hand because there was like an old pot or something, and Frank was like apologizing for her instead of like seeing if she was okay.
Oh my
You know, there were like little scenes. Like Frank's a bit I don't know, like
Yeah.
compared to Jamie, right? Like Jamie's like
Yeah.
completely like, you know, Claire's his like universe, right? So
Which, not to foreshadow, but who's from an older time than Jamie? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
more progressive in the 1740s, and Frank.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll restrain myself. But
Yeah.
y'all, I could not separate future Frank from Frank. All right, Jen. Well, don't be looking ahead too far. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I know.
Yeah. I know it's tough to keep things as spoiler free as possible, and I'm one of the most guilty people ever. So if you come into book club, just be prepared. Some things will slip out of my mouth. I'll try my best, but it felt like I'm a dangerous person. It felt like we were missing a lot of their relationship since we never saw them before. Okay. Steph, what do you think about Frank? I
To
see
me,
you over
just-
there.
he's so flat to me. He's so boring.
Hmm.
Like before the war, of course, he had like this job that was adventurous. So
Mhm.
maybe that's what was a thing for Claire to be drawn to him, the excitement. And afterwards, he's just busy with himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things too I would bring up is like I do think there's a lot that Frank has taught her that will be very important. So in a certain aspect, his career, you know, there's a part later on where he had told her things about like torture techniques and stuff, you know, like there's certain things that she'll remember that he's taught her. So he's not a completely useless.
She maybe wouldn't have survived without him, because
Yeah.
he told her so much knowledge about this time and this place that
Yeah.
she had the opportunity to make up a story and be
Yeah.
a little bit believable.
Yeah. And the most wonderful thing about Frank, I'll tell you, is that if his family wasn't from Scotland, we wouldn't be in Scotland, and she never goes through at all. So thank you, Frank, for being our doorway to Jamie.
He's a doorway.
I can say about him. If he didn't bring us here, we don't end up here. So there's that. Okay, one more of this and we'll go to the next question, because see, I'm already making us take too long on one thing. I think if you look at it, there are a lot of people with marriages like Frank and Claire. They're married, but they have quite separate lives. That's fair. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. And again, what I said in the discussion group is, for me, I think that if none of this ever happens, they have a great marriage going forward. It might have been, again, a little flat, but a lot of people were used to having stuff like that. And then I think you get to the 60s with the women empowerment movement and Claire boots him. That's what I personally think, if things played out the way they put up with it for years. And then she's like, you know what? I can divorce you now. Bye. And that's what would happen. It would have been fine. Which has been perfectly average. Okay. Here we go. I should just skip this question, but I won't, because I know people want to talk about. What are your thoughts about the Highland ghost that all of us who've read talk about? But Crystal, how about you? What do you think? I guess you see the.
I'm just so confused. I still don't know how that plays in, but I'm
Me too.
intrigued.
Me too.
I'm so confused.
I think it's funny because the amount of question that people have reading it the first time is the amount of question I have after reading through 9 books, because we really don't get any more. I have theories.
Same.
But none of them have been proven or disproven in the 8 years I've been reading them. So,
like, I know
The series
who it
isn't
is,
over, right?
but how it is, I don't know.
yeah. Anyway,
The series isn't over yet, right? The book series is not completed yet, or is it
No, it's
completed?
No,
they
there's
just
one more
need
left.
hopefully it's just one more, because she's getting old.
Yeah.
This is why I'll be reading the whole series. It's like one of those questions you want to ask God at the pearly gates, right? Right. I'm like, man, I hope you wrote it on a piece of paper somewhere and hit
Well, I
it.
know she addressed like who it was, but she herself was like,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've always known who it is, but it's the how, the why, the where, and
I
like.
think she said it's going to be revealed in the last book.
Yeah, but I mean, we all know who it is. I wasn't saying who it is. I'm saying like the how and the when type of thing. Absolutely spot on about Claire dumping him, especially when she becomes a doctor. Yeah, Erica, she totally would. She'd be doing that. Would she ever still want to be a doctor? Who's to say? You know, I have no idea. The first time I read the books, who the ghost was all about. I have theories. Yeah, there will always be theories for that. All right.
I just want to say that, like, you know, when Frank saw the ghost and he came to the room and he was describing it to Claire, he was talking about like the brooch, which the ghost had. I'm surprised that Claire, when she went back, that she didn't like notice, you know, like make the connections.
Sure.
Like, I never saw it in writing that she made the connections.
Yeah. I feel like too that he describes it, but also it's not the same as seeing it yourself. Like, she didn't see it on the ghost. Frank like explained it. And I'm sure there are plenty of brooches that like have that general, you know, once you're back in the time, and like lots of people have those, but that is it's a good thing to point out for sure. I sometimes think DG has no intent beyond, of course. Sorry, beyond what? Beyond B of continuing the story as a series. So now we're all stuck waiting for it. Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, that's a fair theory, but I think that she hasn't, like she said, she hasn't. Again, she could be fibbing, but like I believe her that she knows where it's ending. I just think that she's not rushing to get to it because she likes her characters. Like she likes spending every day with them. I can just tell. But anyway. That's a fan theory of my part. So, okay, last question of part 1. What would you do if you woke up in a different time, and what would it take for you to believe it?
I would not survive.
Yeah. I'd be dead so fast.
I would alive.
Burned as a witch.
Burned as a witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Right away.
I was literally thinking about that. I was like, what could I bring to 1700s knowledge that would keep me alive?
Yeah.
Not much.
Well, it's like thank God Frank was like literally telling her all about Jack Randall and all these events like right before, because like she would have been clueless. Like I would be clueless going back in that time unless you study it. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah, I think it's different too, because like Diana talks about this as like, yes, things have advanced a lot by 1940s, but it's not the same as a 1990s or a 2000s person going back. Because it's like they still don't have like internet. They, yes, they have electricity, but they don't have like cell phone. There's a lot of things they still rely on. I think you'd still miss indoor plumbing. The first time I had to go in an outhouse, I would be done. I'd be like, no. It's a chamber.
I think she also was kind of good prepared because of her life with her uncle.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I remember her talking about in her book. I'm like, she learned knowledge as well to live without plumbing and all that kind of stuff. So she also had a little bit of an extra edge to be sent back that far.
Yeah. And that she had all that botany knowledge and knows all about plants and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, that's good. I wouldn't know any of that, like the healing properties of different plants.
Yeah.
Well, I would make a good body. That's what I'd make.
I feel like in the 40s, there still was a lot of like herbal medicinal stuff that was used. Whereas like now, like we know how do we know how to do any of that stuff? Like I would die from stuff. Wouldn't we all love to learn more about him? I know I would like to know that. I would even be fine if she did a short story about Claire's time with Lamb. She's done short stories about a lot of people's family members at different points, and Lamb would be a fun one to see a little bit of him. Who knows?
I remembered now in the reread, right, that Uncle Lamb, he died in a blitz in London, like during the war.
Uncle Lamb?
Yeah.
During the bombings.
Yeah. I missed that.
During the bombings, in London or wherever.
See how many times I've read that. I missed out on that. I know Roger's parents.
That's also, that's how Roger's parents died as well.
Yeah.
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 Scary time, man. All right. Okay. Now get into the good stuff. Here we go. This question I feel like kind of rolls into that. So we'll go to this. What should we ask? I don't know. What's some of our first impressions of our group of Highlanders we run into? I mean, we can talk about Blackjack too. They're, like I said, I'm all over the place. What do we think? I just think that is so. It would be so scary to run into someone that looks exactly like your husband dressed up and then just tries to like rape you in the middle of the woods. That's all great and everything. This is one of the scenes that gives people that immediately have like, oh my gosh, Outlander just about rape every 5 seconds, because this does happen very immediately. But
There's a lot of it.
that's Blackjack. If we could take every scene in this book that is Blackjack trying to rape somebody, that would be gone. So let's be clear that he's a very specific sadist of a horrible person. But yeah,
I think like it was interesting, and this is the pieces of the historical fiction that I found really interesting, is like all the research you can do and look on a certain removed space on the reality of that is much more different. And like the cute like Blackjack, oh, you just like it's very reserved. You're reading it in the history pages, but in reality,
yeah,
is so much more traumatizing and just
what are people's
it's interesting
personalities
what
like?
sticks. Yeah, it's interesting what sticks throughout history, what their impact is, when the reality was much more terrifying or whatnot.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of like, you look at your family tree and it's like, oh, it's interesting. I want to know where they live. But yeah, like, who were they really? Because they were people just like us. But I mean, seriously, some people were serial killers, probably. Some of them were just good. Some people were the class clowns. Like, how do you know?
Or they beat their wives, so they were drunks. You don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy. So who were they? So let's see here. The first meaning of Blackjack, especially having seen the show. Yeah. This is where I started to feel like I connected with Claire and I was in it. This was the moment that gripped me. Yeah. It's intense.
Yeah.
Man. Just dropping into it. It's more jarring than I expected. Not only is she still reconciling that she's in a different time, but then is attacked. Yeah. Yeah. It's very fast. It's very fast. And then to go from that to then get knocked over the head by somebody else, and then we meet our Highlanders. We meet our Mackenzie Fraser crew of people.
I don't think she was as freaked out as she should have been, though.
Yeah. I think it'd be so disconcerting to see your husband's face, and then you're like, okay, wait, am I in another time? Like, because it's exactly like him, and then he's so cold and psycho. That would be weird. And then all of a sudden you're seeing, all the Highlanders.
Yeah.
Like, it just.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, too, of like, I feel that, I've said that, number one, I feel like she is disassociating, like, right, because she's like, oh, I have a task. Let me try to help this person. Let me do that, without ever really fully like soaking in what's going on. I don't think we like fully see her do that until they like get to Castle Leoch, because it's just like they're just pushing her along with them and taking her with, and it's like, oh, she's taking care of Jamie, this injured person, and it isn't until she's like in a room in Leoch where she's like, okay, how, like, I just really let myself be like taken here. How am I gonna get back? Like, what am I gonna do? But I mean, I love them. I love that crew. I love Rupert. I love Dougal. Crazy Dougal.
Am I like the only one that loves Dougal?
Oh no, I love Dougal.
Okay, and I find the actor so hot. So
McTavish is.
So maybe that's the problem too. I imagine him in my head, and I'm always like, oh, he's so hot.
No,
and
I
the actor is also so funny.
Yeah, he's a character who 100% I only see the actor. And even when he's in the book where I'm like, oh, that's kind of shitty, I'm like, nope, I'm seeing the actor.
Have you seen there's like the manga, the one it's not manga, but like a comic style, the book, which has anyone read that?
I haven't read it. I've looked at it a few times, but
because Google looks a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, he is described different, but I just ignore him. you know, some characters are just always going to be who I see, and I just ignore that. But
I have a love-hate relationship with Dougal.
yep. I mean, same.
Yeah.
But he's someone like I always have affection for, even when I still want him to be like, I still want him to stop what he's doing.
Yeah. Even when he's doing horrible things and like hitting on her, or this or that, like I'm like, dude. But then I'm like, oh, you know, it's Dougal.
Especially in part 6. You're like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, what an idiot. She tried to explain it as a movie. She keeps herself busy. Yeah, Claudia. I definitely think that's it. Is her just being like, but that's why I think she, like Diana making her the character that she is with her background. I think that it is believable because she's been in war situations where you don't get to overthink it. So it's like, I don't know whether this is real or not, but what would I do? I would try to save this person. Okay, this is what I would do. And so, I mean, it works for me, even if it's over the top. I do think her brain tries to rationalize. Yep. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, and she's used to very high stress situations. So for her,
Oh,
this
grandma's a silver.
Oh, you don't have to be sorry, girl. I love him.
He
Oh
is.
my
I
gosh.
was trying to show people at work. I was like, no, he's hot. And then I'm like, let me show you a picture. And they're this young, you know, she was really young. She's like, really? I was like,
Oh, they're missing.
I'm like, you got to watch it. You got to watch him talk. You know, his
I
charisma.
listened to Sam and Graham's book because they narrate, and I just wanted to listen to them. Like I listened to their book. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that's why I wanted them narrating, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I want them.
Oh my word, if they ever did like a graphic audio of Outlander.
Yeah.
Graham is real. Yes, he is. The Exile. Yes, Sarah.
Yeah,
that's the book, Julia. Yeah. I will read it. It's from Jamie's point of view. Yes. Yep. Love to hate it. Dougal's scheming is what brought Jamie to get. That's true. See?
True.
He's the reason they get married. That's absolutely right. She would be
So
in a
he
lot
was
of
the
trouble.
matchmaker.
He is. Yeah, I have a question. About that coming soon. Okay, let's move along to Castle Leoch. Who are your favorite characters there? What do you think of Castle Leoch and everything?
Oh, what's her name?
I love Mrs. Fitz.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Fitz, yeah.
Yeah. I liked Ned too. You know, like he's just so sweet and like always getting involved and trying to help her, but like not. And
Yeah.
I really love his character.
Yeah, he's good. I like old Alec. He's pretty great.
Yeah.
He's just like, boy, keep your head on straight. Love it. Okay, and then this was the point where I mean, I feel like this is tough. I want to know, people watching who have not read it before. Are any of you who this was your first time, have you not watched the show? And if you haven't watched the show and this was your first time reading, so this is like brand new, what did you think of Jamie on your first impressions? And none of it, like, because all of us have background feels and a million feels about it. So is anyone like a complete virgin to this? Was anybody? Let me see if anyone in the comments was, because I know all of us had pre-knowledge before this, so that doesn't work. But I want to see if anybody watching, tell me if this was your absolute first, and then we'll all ask everybody else what they think. But which I think we know. We'll see if anyone comments that. But
I feel like it's hard not to know anything about Jamie, and even if like you haven't seen the show, like
You've seen pictures at least.
you've seen pictures, you've heard people talk about him. I don't know. It's like hard.
Well, there's people who see pictures, but you've never, like, if you haven't watched the show and you haven't read the book, and all you see is the picture, that's not the impression I mean. I mean, if there's anybody who this was their first look at him. All right. Okay, we got a couple people. We got someone. Stacy, it's for her. I was a complete wasn't sure at first, but withheld judgment since you've talked about him so much. Okay. Well, tell us more with this. Tell us a little more with that by what you mean. Like, what do you mean you weren't sure? Did you think he was like, were you just benign to him? Or like, what do you mean by you weren't sure? That's what I want to know. Because I'll tell you, this time around, I was really trying to pay attention to like all the first scenes with him at all. I think she must have meant this was the first time, but honestly, I didn't like Jamie all that much until after the witch trial. I could see that. Until she actually like tells him and how he reacts. That's what I assume you mean. Fair. Fair. I could see that. I know there were some people very committed to Frank in the discussions, which is fine. I'm also not married and I love Jamie already. So whenever I reread Frank, I'm like, okay, Frank, you're nice. It's fine. But people who are like,
bye.
right. And I'm totally fine with it. I'm like, people who are like, wow, you just are giving this up so quick. I just have thoughts to say about that because I don't think she gave it up that quick. Other people feel differently. H says, complete newbie to it all, and I was totally taken aback. Same for the witch trials. It took getting there for me to feel something. Okay. Well, thank you for continuing, because I gotta say, those of you who you were struggling up to that point, you really pushed through to get to it, because that is something that can be said about the book, and I agree, is that it is a slog. If you're not into it, like, it's a slog. I agree. She definitely doesn't cut her words back. So, you know, it's like she said, it's very historical fiction. And I think that people don't know that, like Crystal said, because we're all about the romance in this series. And I myself say it's my favorite romance. So I know that I lead some people astray by saying it's my favorite romance. But the couple is my favorite romance. The book isn't my favorite romance book. The couple is my favorite romance. So there's, I know, I'm technical about stuff. I thought he was very young and a little immature. It also felt like he was hiding his true self a lot. But as a historical romance reader, that wasn't as jarring. It took a bit for me to get to hero vibes. All right. Okay. That is fair. That is a good assessment. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I always got the feeling like he was older than what he...
Right? Yeah. I know. You know what tipped me off this time, though? Number one, I think it's that I'm 30 now, whereas the first time I was like 23 when I read this. And number two, it was during the sex stuff that he did feel younger to me. He's very world-wise, but dealing with women, he felt young. To me, when I was like, he always felt older to me, but I was like, 22 in that time probably was older. You know, like that is, he's already lived through like almost being killed 100 times and war. And,
well, that's why I like historical anything, like historical fiction, historical fantasy, YA historical, is because the characters always feel older to me than what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this may be a controversial statement. Everyone said he really liked him at the witch trials. I kind of liked it when he was punishing Claire.
Oh, babe, we'll get there. I love it too. Okay. That's just what you said you first said. I could get that. I could get that.
I think I liked him when he
felt more like grown up fighting the door.
Yeah.
Yes.
When he was
gentlemanly.
I think we only see like Claire's point of view for so long, right? So she's preoccupied with other things. She's not really looking at Jamie, you know? So we don't get much of Jamie until like she's forced to like marry him, you know?
Yeah.
Until that point, like he's just a character, you know, in the back. Yeah.
He felt like a platonic friendship kind of character until then.
Right. Right, because she's planning to go home to her husband. She's hoping she can. And it's ironically enough, Frank's ancestor who makes it impossible for her to get home to Frank. Say it.
Yeah, I feel like she was naturally keeps getting drawn to Jamie, like, and so it's naturally drawn to him, but she wasn't trying to look at him like that because she's so focused on getting back home. But it's like you could still see they had like a little connection, and she would keep, you know, being drawn to him. So, you know, reading it the second time, I was like noticing a lot more of, obviously, Jamie's lines. I was paying attention to that more.
She's trying to push him towards Leary and like, oh, you like her? Like she's being kind of like a sister with him.
Which I forgot how much I hated that girl.
I know. Yeah.
I know. I think
don't jump ahead, Stacey. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there about the punishment, because that's where that is the decisive place for everybody.
Yeah, people freak out over that.
Oh, I love it. I noticed how drawn in friendship they grew. Yes, I like that too. Because for me, watching this, I was aware of how much he's like watching her. And like when she comes to check on his wounds, he's like he talks to her so much. Like, he's very like quiet around everyone else, but he spills a lot of stuff to her even before they're like married. Like, he's telling her these stories and like telling her pieces of stuff. And I don't know, I was just very aware that like he already like trusted her a lot for someone with the type of secrets he has. I don't know. I just really noticed how anytime he was around her, he was like telling her things. But when there'd be other people around them there, like he didn't talk. So he's very trusted her a lot.
But that's kind of like considering that she's English and they don't know if she's a spy. Like he's telling too many things, you know? It's not safe.
He absolutely was. I mean, I like historical fiction. I like reading it, but I was surprised this was so much historical fiction. Yes, I didn't know that. I like Jamie, but I wouldn't say I was in love with him yet. Hey, that's all right. That's all right. We got 30 years to go. Okay, we got 30 years to go. It's all right.
We got plenty of good stuff to go through.
I know. Slow burn for JNC. Love those times over lunch. Yes, I love it. I love seeing him around horses. I forget how much he loves horses because we like
yeah,
get the time to do that much. Like, it's in this one and some in like book 3, and then like he's busy. He doesn't get to do the love of horses that he has. He doesn't get to do very much, but. Let's see. Maybe he opened up to Claire because he was an Outlander himself at Leac. Oh, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. He was more outsider at Leac because he's still family there. But yeah, they don't trust him. They're all trying to manipulate him, and Jamie's a smart cookie. And
I like how he was like low key, you know, he was always just trying to be unnoticed, low key, not try to start the drama, you know.
Ruth said this. He was also well educated. I wouldn't have expected that in 1743. This is, you know, we'll get into this too, but one of the reasons why I think he adapts so well to when things with their relationship have to work is that, number one, he has very strong women in his life, and number two, he's been other places, and he'll say like there's some people who like they're never going to be further than like Jenny. Jenny's never been more than a mile from where she lives her entire life. And so it's very foreign stuff outside, but like Jamie's been places even for one so young. So he knows that not all superstitions need to be followed and not everything is how it is. Whereas other people, like, they live or die by those things. So, okay, gotta keep it going on to part 3 because I got a lot of stuff in this one. This is where I really get it going. Okay, so here's a fun one. We kind of touched on it, but like when we're getting into part 3 now. So if you guys don't know, this is now we're like on the road. So we've had like Claire wants to go, and I didn't even like we talked about Castle Leac, but we didn't even mention the other uncle. We didn't talk about Colum at all. Like,
oh yeah,
what people think of him, because by the end of part 2 is when she thinks she's really convinced Colum into like letting her go, and he's like, actually, you're gonna go on the road with Dougal and Jamie and everybody. So she didn't get away. She's now on the road, but hoping for a chance to get away at some point. But now they go on the road, and now we get to see some of the other aspects of Dougal, and we find out about his secret mission, and also we start getting more stuff with him. So what do we think about Dougal in this part, and like his different allegiances and stuff like that? And, you know, now what we know about him and his brother, like what were some people's thoughts about that dynamic and everything?
He's so complicated. I think it's like, you know, there are good things to Dougal, but there's so much how he's so conniving, and he like uses Jamie to like forward his message. And, you know, what he does to Jamie each time he does that is just pretty cruel. But like he doesn't care because it's about his mission, you know? And so he's like one of those, he's over passionate and wants to do things, you know, his way. I don't think he's trying to be malicious or, you know, but he's going to do what he needs to do to get forward his mission. But I thought it showed a lot of how like smart, but also impulsive and crazy like Dougal can get. So
yeah. He's very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Very politically driven. Like I can imagine him in some court, like,
yeah.
King's Court, like how manipulative and like political he would be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was so angry when he ripped off Jamie's shirt. I know. And we shouldn't have to be sad when Jamie's shirt's getting ripped off, but it's just so depressing.
Mm-hmm.
What really stood out to me this time was all the machinations and nuanced characters. Yes, Diana writes such complex characters and does political intrigue so well. She really does. She does a good job with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers of stuff going on. Okay. All right, so here was this. We had a really good discussion about this in the Discord. So now that we get at this part of the book in part 3, we end up getting taken before Blackjack Randall again. So knowing that Blackjack Randall is related to Frank, did this change anyone's opinion of him? Do you see any similarities between them? You know, and then I also asked, like, do you think there's cruelty in Frank's blood? How much do you think genealogy really plays a role, or does it or not? You know, they're fun things to contemplate, to dig through, but for some people's thoughts on that.
I think he made me like Frank more.
Yeah.
I hate Jack so much. I hate him with a burning passion.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that he reminds her so much of Frank, I'm just like, okay, well, Frank isn't that bad of a guy.
No.
In comparison.
But it's the looks, man. And like at the end of this book, when a certain thing happens and she's just like, I'm now always going to see the face of my husband as that. Like, she says that eventually, where she's like, I know they're not the same, but I won't ever see like my husband's face in love anymore. I'm going to see this. And that makes me feel bad for Frank. Because I'm like, that's not Frank's fault at all. But like, she also can't undo that. She has PTSD from this motherfucker now. Like, what she's
Yeah.
Anyway, anybody else? Keep going out. We're talking about Dougal. Yes, Dougal. Jack had issues. Yeah.
Psychoanalyze. Let's study his brain.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Whoever picked up on? I know I'm jumping to because we got to talk about Blackjack, so I'm pulling it up. Whoever like picked up the part of him like having sexual feelings for his brother. Thank you for bringing
I know, right?
I
saw that this time around.
Where was that?
Oh, I missed that.
I thought, was that the prisoner name was Alexander?
Well, no, he is saying. Well, he's saying.
I thought at first I thought it was about that, but then I realized later when they mentioned his younger brother was Alexander.
Yeah, Jamie thought he knew his middle name, but Claire remembers that he has a brother named Alexander. Mm-hmm. And so that's just what we put together, is that when he is assaulting Jamie, he's saying Alex, and Jamie is just saying like, he was saying my name, and she's like, oh, he has a brother named that. And it's like, you put that.
I didn't get that the first time I read it.
No,
neither. I've read it so, but to be fair, I always like skipped that part in the book, so I never noticed it before. I'm
like, I don't want to listen to this.
I know.
I want to read it.
But I know I was at work listening to it, and I'm like, oh no, it's coming to the part. I don't want to do this.
For the analysis this time, I did, because I wanted to pick it apart, but I've only read it before once, and I've only watched that once. I've watched the show 20 times, and I never watched it again, ever. I always, when I introduce people to the show, I'm like, you can watch that episode alone. I'll be back in an hour. Bye. And I like
the problem is it's so well done, so well acted. Like did he get nominated for playing Jack? Because like I thought he got nominated, but I don't know if he won.
Rome. I thought he got nominated for Rome. I don't know if
because he deserves all the way. Like he is so scary as Jack Randall. Like.
No, I see that scene when I read it. That's why I hate it. I never watched it because I see it. But actually in the book, it didn't hurt me as much in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm skipping way ahead. Sorry. Okay. There's a whole other discussion to be had about this one. So just from part 3 now, when she's really starting to peel back with him, they have their little tete-a-tete back and forth. And he's like, you know, I'm going to get you. You're an English citizen or British citizen. I'm going to get you. He's just awful. It's just so, he's nominated for a Golden Globe.
Very scary.
Yeah.
He's almost even scary because like he just does it in such a like a very British calmed manner and the cruelty and how he delivers it, and he like just like recovers. I'm like, that's where you should be scary. This person like that can be so calm, cool, collected.
I made note of this time when he punches her in the stomach and says, "I hope you weren't pregnant, but if you were, you won't be now." Yeah. And I was like, that is a total mind fuck, because if she had been pregnant, it would have been Frank's. If she had at that point, it would have been Frank's baby.
Yeah.
That is such a chilling line to me that I was like, oh my God.
Well, and like he was just talking so calmly the whole scene, and then like out of nowhere he just gut punches her, and I'm just like, oh, I like totally forgot. I was like in the moment reading it again, and I'm just like, oh, I was like, I hate him.
Well, he's like, also tormenting his soldier too, because the soldier is a boy. He doesn't want to help with this, but he knows who's forced to hold her. Like, oh.
You could see how scary he was to his men too, you know, like that they like just did whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Well, knowing his proclivities, the boy was probably also having trauma, you know.
Yeah.
For sure. As someone also into genealogy, I think some things pass down into the genetics, but a lot of BJR's mannerisms were his own. That's true. I think there's a line too, though, that I love where it's like the face she adored so much, like saying certain things to her is what was so like traumatizing for her too.
Yeah.
You know, this beloved voice that she like hearing these things said was just so.
And also the smile, because he smiles the same, but he smiles because it's something horrible, and Frank smiled because it was something good.
Yeah.
And she said she forgot that for a second that she thought that she was talking to Frank, and though something that Frank would just blithely and just in a time period, he took that as, you know, violence against
him. And it's also something that makes me hurt for Frank is like how much Frank like would have wanted to like meet him, and you kind of like feel that where you're just like like it's just so you know like how much Frank would have liked if he could time travel to this stuff, to have that like. It's just, I feel
he's a scientist guy. I think he would like be very into the history of it.
Yeah.
But I wonder how he would, and he's been in war, so I'm sure he saw things that he didn't like. So I wonder how he was during the war would determine how he would handle the things in that time period.
Yeah. We'll definitely see some there's a few loves of history that Frank has to give up later on. We'll just say that.
I just gotta wonder what happened to Jack to make him be such a psycho.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he was born. I've done enough serial killer researching in my life that sometimes it's made. There's a lot that it's made, but there's plenty that it's born too.
But he's also a bit the Duke guy who likes little boys, the younger boys. So I think maybe that could be something that happened to him. Yeah, that came to me in the reread. I thought, okay, maybe that's double evil and have made him have this sexual preferences.
Is one of the most well
that can happen after abuse, that someone wants to do the same thing to someone else.
Yeah, and then he's just like, I feel like he was born more like a sadist. He has those tendencies, and then those probably came in later from what happened to him, and then he kind of merged them, you know, but he's definitely sadist. And
well, definitely like how would Jack be in the future? Because like those like his certain proclivities, and like, you know, because we know that like BDSM is a different kind of a thing. It's more accepting. But I wonder if he would have a more safe avenue for those in the different time period, or was he at the same time? I'm like, did that make him being abused himself or something, exposed to that? But at the same time, would he turn out the same way if he, because you know sometimes that can make those negative.
I don't like thinking about Jack in the future. I'm just like, die already.
I was like, I'm not going to give him that much of a JR and his brother were complete opposites. It seems like he was one. Fair enough.
I wonder how he got into power, you know, Black Jack. Like how did he get to like the
Oh,
office.
well, I'm
thing.
sure I don't doubt he's good at his job. And like, I don't doubt he's good at his job, because being good and getting to the position he got into is why he's able to do what he wants.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's good at his job, and the better you are at your job, the higher rank you get, and the higher rank you get, the more power you have. So that's why plenty of people who can.
And he can be as ruthless as he wants in that position, especially with like the Scots and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he could just do what he wanted.
Mhm.
I can't
And don't
believe
forget, like,
that.
the Duke was probably a sponsor too.
Okay.
I can't believe
No.
that Dougal like dropped Claire with Blackjack after knowing what Blackjack did to Jamie. You know, he was there, right, when Jamie was whipped.
I
Yeah.
think he thought
He
like
doesn't even
that
avoid.
she might be a spy almost. So
Yeah.
he was thinking
He's
she's
messing with
English,
her.
she's safe.
Yeah.
But so I love when he kind of comes in at the end, you know, and he's like, oh, and now he knows like she ain't a spy for them. Like, and she's not working with him.
Because then after that, after he sees what's happening, he takes her to the spring and makes her drink the water. And now he's like, okay, I see the way he's treating you. You're able to drink this and tell me the truth, and I believe you. So in a way, like, he's an opportunist. This is what we need to bring up about Dougal. He is absolutely an opportunist, because part of him, like, he doesn't want to see a woman suffer. I don't believe he wants to see her like suffer this way. But he also is then like, okay, well, what's the way that I can protect her? Well, I can make her a Scottish citizen. How would it also benefit me? Oh, I can have my nephew marry her, because now he can't take my future role from me. So it's like he is saving her, but he is also removing Jamie as a. But this also does help Jamie, because there's less people trying to kill him now that he's married to a Sassenach and can't be in the way. So it's like he's an opportunity, and he does make this all happen for us, but he is doing it for his own aim. So that's why he's such a complex person, because like he's not completely evil, but he also is like trying to get his best as he can. And, you know, which moves us into the next part, because he does set this all up for us. So we have this next part here. So how do you feel about the decision to marry Jamie to Claire for protection? And of course, what did you think about how Jamie reacts to the wedding, and how, like, you know, all in he is to this right away? So we're getting to the fun stuff now.
I thought it was really smart of Dougal. I think he would have done it himself if he would have been able to. And but like I think it was really smart. And then I think Jamie's on board because he's been attracted to her from the get-go. He's a young guy, she's beautiful, and he was like, okay, you know, like, and he didn't really have anything going for him. He's like on the run. He's, you know, so this is definitely helping him. So I mean, I think he was definitely on board, because now he could have like his wife.
Yeah, he feels kind of bad too. Like he feels kind of bad, because she's like, "Why are you doing it? You're saving me." And he's like, "Well, I'm not exactly marriage prospects for anybody."
I don't have a lot to offer you.
You know, I mean, I am a laird, but can't ever take my birthright while I'm a which, you know, leads him to make some decisions that get him into trouble soon. But I will say, for me, this time around particularly, as I said, I was trying to be as divorced from as I can. But I fall completely head over heels for him every time when we dive into this, because it's so clear how much of a romantic that he is, how much he believes in this, and just how much he like pours his heart out to her and is just all in. And like seeing how much, like, I can feel the dread in Claire the more time she's spending with him, because she's just like, oh my gosh, I think I really love this guy and I'm so screwed. Like, I can just feel the dread in the stuff where she's like, oh, he's being so sweet. Damn it. I like him so much. I feel bad for her. But
like the wedding and the wedding night, I think, is when like Jamie is like full on, like, just moves me, and it's just like he's so swoon worthy. And but I also love a virgin hero. And like how like awkward he kind of was, and like the
how he really didn't know how sex worked. I still laughed at that. I'm like, because he thought
that's cute every time. It's adorable.
He thought doing it from behind was
the only way to do
it. Yeah.
So sweet to hear that.
And
Jamie.
Claire can teach him the ways. She's,
I know.
she's an experienced woman.
He's like
I
so
think he
sweet
learned
about
pretty
it.
quick though.
Yeah.
I mean, they all do. Let's be real.
He was eager to learn, He was eager.
And like, well, and even she says too, because it's not like she was having unpleasing relations with her, like her husband didn't have it bad, but she says she's like, it's never felt like this. Because guess what? They're soulmates. I'm just saying it. They're soulmates. There.
Because Jamie pays attention to her.
Yeah.
That makes the biggest difference.
And he cares about pleasing her, and doing things right. And
there's also just, again, he's so romantic. He's like talking about her hair and her skin and how he just wants to lay beside her all day and just like, he's romantic. Claire's
I highlighted way too much. The highlighting was just like,
oh gosh, so many. Like Claire's not a romantic person. She's not. And I'll tell you, and never is she. Jamie's always the romantic one for forever for that. I'll just tell you this. He is not, she's not romantic at all. Which is fine. I love when the guy's more romantic. Like I have friends who are like that too, where husband always does sweet things. So it's great, but it's really endearing.
Well, he was waiting for her too. He didn't want to do anything till he found the woman that was his wife. And so he was eager and he was looking forward to it.
He didn't have time to do it. He didn't want to do it with the whores in France and get syphilis.
Yeah.
And he also then Leoc, and it's the lady, he didn't want to have to marry one of them and have them be interested, so it's like, I don't think he's completely just being a good Catholic boy, but I think it was some bit, like, like I think he also was just smart. He didn't think with his dick is the thing. Like he definitely would have done it if he found the person too, but
he didn't want to have babies that he couldn't take care of.
Right. Or deflower a person. So anyway, but it was
it was an attribute to his dad, Brian. So like just the fact that always stuck with him. So that shows like how much of an impact the parent has to that aspect as a person.
Oh yeah. His parents were soulmates too. Like was it so good. Like I just love it. And his things of like there's just so much. There's just so much.
Like the ring, and then like him giving her like the pearls, or like it's just.
It was all just.
Ruth is like.
It was hilarious. She was mad at him, and like.
Girl was
somebody it.
Love it. He's 100%.
I thought it was so sweet that he wanted to make sure, like he knew that she didn't enjoy it, that she wanted to make sure that it was still special to her. Yeah. And so that she felt beautiful with the dress, and I'm like.
He does also say, he says later too, she's like, well, why'd you do it? And he's like, well, I wanted you. Like he says it. He's like, I wanted you. And also I could be protecting you. So why not? He's clear about it. But yeah, he's so like for me too, like he's all in at this. And I can't remember where I have it in my notes when. Okay. Is it in this part or is it in the next part? Okay, it's in the next part. So I'll wait to say that. But for me, like, yeah, Jamie's all in. And what is hard, and why I feel this dread is because they're like, she's falling for him, but she's still planning to go home at this. So all the people who say like, oh, she falls for him too easily, my opinion and how I read it, because it's inferred in her that she's still planning to leave. That's why she doesn't like how much she's feeling. And when he asks her if it always is like this, she's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Because she's still planning to leave. She's like, oh, I'm going to hurt him even more if he falls in love. So like, I need to be a little bit prickly, but I can't help it. Like she's still planning to leave where we're at now. She still is for a little while, in my opinion, because it's in there.
Yeah.
Still planning to leave. But she knows the only way she'll stay safe long enough to leave is if she did this. So, but we'll keep moving on. Let me just go through a few of these and then we'll move along still because we're over an hour now. I cringe to learn that Dougal taught him some teenager. Well, didn't he like beat him if he was? I don't know.
No, he grabbed his balls and he asked him like, or he put something near his balls and he asked him some questions about being respectful to women. And then he had to say, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yes.
And he never thought about his daughter again.
That's right.
Yeah, he woke up to that.
Yeah. With his morning wood, he woke up.
That's funny. Yeah, because they were cousins. And he's like, oh, but never looked at her again. We're like, well, that's good. Okay, love how he asked about the different ways. Yes. Was surprised she and Frank had an experience. Right? I know. Although I can't say that I saw Frank going downtown at any time anyway. So that didn't surprise me at all. But Jamie,
Yeah, he didn't seem like a giver.
Right.
Like a
Jamie right
giver.
away is like,
Didn't he do that in the show, though?
He immediately is like, well, you did that to me. Could I do that to you? Like,
Mhm.
right away. Love it. Part where she's mad at him, thinking he married her for money, but he just wanted money so he could buy her a ring. I know. Exciting. And the part is when she comes for the first time. She gets all determined to make it happen oh, that's right. She said it doesn't happen every time. And he's like, oh, it's gonna. That's right.
I love that part too.
We love it. See, this is why it's like, this is the romancy part. We get a good section of that happening. So, okay. Now we go from all the fun to a tougher part right here. So, yeah. What would you have run at the point that Claire runs? So Jamie's trying to get his name cleared. They just have like a little tiff because, well, she almost got raped and they're all dealing with the overflow of emotions like this. And they have like a fight. And then he's trying to go get his name cleared and she runs away and tries to get back to the Stones and gets kidnapped. And then he rescues her with nothing but an empty pistol in his bare hands. Love it. It's absolutely dramatic. Some of my favorite lines from the show are right here. I love this. To be honest, I love their first big fight that they have. I know that it's like brutal, but like like Jamie's not afraid to call names. Okay, I will say that. Like he's just like, you're such a bitch. Like he just goes at her, which I know probably hurts some people, but it shows that he's a fully fleshed out real person. And like,
I mean, who doesn't?
Well, it didn't take. He was an instant. Like how long he slow to anger he was. You're just like, I'm like, damn, okay.
Right. Well, and she's doing her thing of like, Claire gets very prickly when she's overwhelmed. Like they both have a little bit of like PTSD from what they just made it through. And she gets very like prickly about it. Whereas like he does get a little bit like blamey about it. But also she did do the thing that he said she did. It's not like he's being unreasonable about being mad about this. It's just that he doesn't have full context of what's happening. So it's like, and this gets into it. We're getting to the next piece of this where, he forgives her, but then he still has to discipline his wife, which I know is not a fun word to say, but here we are. We're at the part that makes a lot of people very angry. And if you've read reviews for Outlander, you will see review upon review upon review saying he's such an abusive asshole and how dare she be with it. Again, we're not going down that road here, but we can discuss how this made us feel.
I don't get how people freak out like that because I'm like, she deserved a little, like she's not in her current time and you went against what was safe to do what you want to do. And now you put other people in jeopardy. Like now you put Jamie in jeopardy, like you deserve to get punished. I just
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he didn't even go about it like as bad as like it could have been, like, I don't know. People were like, when I looked at Goodreads reviews, I was like shocked. I was like, oh my God, I would never have taken it to that far. Like,
yeah.
I mean, with the amount of books we read, like obviously they're not historical or, those ones, but like with punishments, they're like pretty, I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad.
Modern day it too much. They're like, oh, I could never, but it's 1700s and like, I mean,
but like
I don't know about y'all, but if I was that little bratty of a child, my parents would have beat my butt. So
yeah.
I mean, you think about Jack Randall now having his eye like on Jamie because of her like actions. I was just like, then you even deserve it way more. Like you just deserve it.
He's gonna feel that way soon too. Is the thing? It's like, you've seen his freaking back, woman. You've seen it.
You've seen what this guy does.
Anyway, okay.
This reminded me of old school historicals, which I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way that it portrayed it to what you want the hero to be. He wasn't just being an alpha hole. He
Yeah.
truly, as our modern viewpoints, it's like it kills me inside, the feminist movement, but at the same time, like it's historical fiction in that time frame.
Yeah.
It makes it more realistic. And at the same time, it kind of like it showed his character, like he told her like he doesn't go against his word.
Yeah.
And he was very clear before he left. He wanted to make sure she understood.
Yeah.
And she didn't, she disregarded that. And he still explained it afterwards in that whole thing. And,
Yeah.
it was just, I don't know. I liked it.
I mean, I've been clear for a very long time how I feel about this, but how I break this down to is that there is the point where they're having the fight, when they're cussing and he's screaming or they're name calling, and he does, I think, flinch his hand at one point. At that point where he's like, "Oh, you bitch, I'm so mad." He never hits her in anger. He's not mad. To me, that's why this isn't domestic abuse. I'm sorry, I'm putting it out there of how it is. He's literally doing a custom of like, you've done the thing. He's not mad. He's forgiven her. He's like, we're good. But you put other people in risk. And like, this is what the punishment is for something like that. Like, he's like, if he was hitting her because he was mad, he would have smacked her around in the Glen when they were fighting about it.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he's cooled down. He's forgiven her. But then like his men are like, dude, what are you going to do about this? Like, that was horrible. Like, what is he supposed to do? Dougal would have whipped her in front of everybody. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, because like at the Castle Leoc, when they were like Laura or whatever her name is, like she was gonna get beaten in front of everybody. That's what was done, and that so it's like,
I understand her indignant too, and I'm not saying she shouldn't have been like. That's the other thing too. I'm not saying she shouldn't have been pissed about it, because that's not where, and like she wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she doesn't deserve to be angry. I'm just saying I don't blame him or hate him or look at him as bad because of it. I don't see him as an abuser. And it leads to one of my favorite scenes in all of Outlander. And this is where I go on my rant, because when they have their reconciliation from this, and he's like, okay, you're not talking to me. I'm not sleeping in bed with you. Like, I'm sorry. This is what I thought I was supposed to do. But if that's not going to work with us, if you want me to leave and never be around you again, okay, we won't ever do it this way again. Like, I love that scene because it shows he's intelligent and he cares, and he is just trying to do what he's taught. And he says, he's like, okay, this is what I've seen in the past. This is what marriages do. But if that's not how our marriage is going to be, okay. Like, he literally, like, it's like, okay, we're not going to do it that way anymore. And guess what? Again, for the next 35 years, he will never do that as a punishment ever. Even sometime in the future when she asks him to, he won't, because he said, I made you a blood oath that I will never punish you, even if you want it again. And he doesn't. So this is one of the pivotal things in their marriage. And that's something about this reread. I was really aware of things that are like posts in their relationship, and so many of those posts get dug in this book. And one of them is that one of how they're able to communicate and meet. There are going to be much worse things that Claire does than this. Things that she'll do. But
I mean, I wanted to hit Claire Slapper quite a few times reading this book.
Anyway, I know. I'm really getting sweaty. We'll go through everyone's comments. I know people in the comments are just, they have their opinions, but I have to get it out because I love him because of, not for the hitting, but for how they talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, they had really good communication with each other afterwards. And it's
emotional intelligence and communication.
Yeah,
and for self-reflection also. Because it was like reflecting, okay, I felt aroused by this, you hated it, and you're not used to it, so we'll never do it again. And that was such a great thing.
Yeah. He wants to make their marriage work, and he doesn't even know at this point yet that she was so close to actually like leaving him for this, so for him to then come back and like talk that through with her, it's like, I don't know. So that's why, to me, whether people are like okay with her being beat or not, I don't see him as an abusive partner or that spanking, whipping, whatever I don't want to call it. Like, there are just some things and some cultures that there is discipline for doing stuff. And it's not because he was excited to do it, though he did as we said, yes, he did get a little excited. And I love his thing about that, where he's like, I mean, you were just so strong and so beautiful. I liked it, but it doesn't mean, and I was like, honesty. I like it.
I mean, we see that with BDSM romances, like it's not
the dom sub aspect. Yeah.
It's nothing they're really going to be able to explore after the trauma that Black Dog
Yeah.
went through, but what could have been. Okay, sorry for my rant. You guys hop in if you want to. I'm going to go back so we can hear what our viewers are saying, so I didn't just run over everybody. Let me see. Lots of thoughts about this. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Miles away. Okay, so this was saying that in the book, she was saying that in the show, she's very close to the stones. So it made sense that she ran. But in the book, she's very far away, so she wouldn't have run. That's a good call. That is true. In the show, they make it look like she could see them.
But she was the closest she's ever been, right? Even in the books. So, like, you have to take the opportunity, right?
Right. In my culture, I was 100% spanked as a child and would have understood it given the times. I also love when a man takes responsibility. That's true. And I mean, the other thing too is like, I fully believe he would have taken a punishment for her from someone else. It's just that told that they were going to beat her if he did, like they would have, because it needed to happen. And he did it in private and just the two of them, like, I don't know.
She could retain her dignity and
Yeah.
Like we saw that with it Lear? We saw that with Lear that he did that too.
Lear, yeah, he cares about it. I have watched some of your rant. Oh yeah, thanks, Alicia. I know. Just somebody mention it and get him on. She put other people at risk, and she deserved that, especially because it wasn't her own time. Yep. Remember at the end of the episode with Claire running to the stones and hearing calling for Frank. Oh yeah, when the screen went black. Oh my gosh, don't even. If he didn't discipline her, then someone else of the clan would have. It was expected that Jamie would do it. Yep. People agreeing with me. I like it. Her life and safety depended on it. Yep. And I mean, I understand nobody wants to hear the like obey part, but it's true. He was in a dangerous place. Like, that's just the thing. I get the thing. She's as close as she's ever been, but every time she's run away in this, she's gotten caught by somebody. So it's like, it's not like this is the first time here.
I feel like every time something bad happens, it's because she's doing something that they told her not to do.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I know better. No, you don't.
We have to go through. I know Amanda didn't agree, so here we go with hers. But here's my take on punishment. This happened because she put them in jeopardy, but they go on cattle raids for fun where people die. Okay. And so she said, I think it was totally unjustified. She just wanted to go home. Right. But
they didn't
know that.
I know. Candace said back, Jamie doesn't know that. And she was saying, which is why they needed the witch trials for that. And then I got past it. Okay, so I was finishing.
That's why people probably started warming up to him a little bit more.
I know. Know that. It's Claire's POV. Who knows how bad it actually was? That's true. And that is the thing, like the show, they talk about it for modern audiences. They show it from Jamie's point of view to make it a little more humorous so it doesn't feel like an abusive scene. We see his point of view of how dangerous everything he had to go through to get her out, and then have her being like mad at him. Yeah, no, that totally, in the book it is tougher to see, but Jamie didn't know why she'd run. Exactly. Yep. He never hits her in anger. Correct. Yes. Thank you. Everybody loves it. I love how he takes her to the water horse and tells her of his embarrassing moments. Yes. Okay. So this was another scene that I loved. Oh, I don't know where I have it marked, but I love this scene so much because he tells her all these things and she's like, oh, I love you. And he's like, he says these things of like, I do all these nice things for you to hate me. And I tell you my most embarrassing moments and you tell me you love me or whatever. She doesn't say she loves him yet, and she's like, yep, that's just how I am. Tell me all your embarrassing things. You didn't punish her. Somebody else would have. Yes. Whenever a character in a show or a movie takes a decision to run away when they shouldn't, my hubby calls it I love this. Oh my God, I love this. I love it. Okay, that was a wonderful discussion. I love that.
I can imagine how like frustrated Jamie would be because he doesn't know why she ran, right? And it's like, you just run and like get us into a whole lot of trouble Oh, and she doesn't even explain why, right?
He does
Yeah.
say why he thinks it. He thinks it's because of the thing the day before with the
Oh yeah, with the rape.
And he's like, "Were you trying to punish me?" And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, because that happened and you're just mad at me." And she's like, "Okay, no." But he thinks it's because he didn't protect her and now she's punishing him by like that's what he thinks is how he explains it anyway. But it's sad. It's a bummer. Okay, so that is the end of part 3 then, and we are getting back to Castle Leoc. And now we get to ask about what do we think of Gayless Duncan? I almost called her something else. What do we
It's
think?
hard when you know things, what to say about her.
Well, I mean, even people have done that. So, okay, we ask it again. Who hasn't read it or seen it before? What do you think of Gayless? I will say this is another one where Lottie Verbeek is very in my head, but
Yeah.
the descriptions of Gayless are so different than her, even though I think she does so great. I really tried to like wipe her from my head this time around. Particularly what they do with that character so much which we'll talk about in a few months when we get to that I hate so much. But yeah, she feels meaner in the book too. Like she always feels conniving in the book.
Yeah.
It
Like
makes
so ruthless with like her husband and like willing, like she felt like it sounds bad, but like almost the perfect counterpoint to Dougal, where it's like they're so erratic and like so zealous with their movements that they're willing to do whatever. I mean, I think she's worse, obviously. I think she's willing to do worse things than Dougal, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I just love Dougal.
You think?
But like she's just, and she has like no shame about it, like she don't care. She's willing to do what she has to do. Yeah,
I completely forgot that she was in this one. Honestly, I kept thinking she showed up in book 2, so that was fun to read and reread. I was like, oh, I don't remember that. I think it's because the show was split up into 2 parts, and so I always associate it with the second part.
That's true.
I think like what she does to Claire is kind of like the whole shady thing made me kind of mad about the whole ill wish thing, and it's a whole, and then her ending up at her place anyway. Because me, obviously, Leary.
I mean, I think she knows it's fake though. Like, I don't think she thinks the ill wish was like real. In my opinion.
But her knowing who it was from would have gave Claire more context. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't listen to this girl. She shouldn't have. She should have known better even before that, based off of what she knew about her pawning with Jamie. But I mean, like,
those hubs. Jenn, I feel bad for him. Like,
gross.
Who's to say all of his gross things aren't things she gave him anyway?
Yeah.
Who's to say she hasn't been we had farts and gout and all that stuff? I don't know. I feel bad for him. I know he's gross, but like it's not his fault. Like if he's old and like you get a little gross when you get old. I'm just saying things happen.
Well, and she was so blasé about when she explained things to Claire, like whatever, like like it just she came off like such a psychopath. Like I was just like, ooh.
He definitely is. Gayless OMG, I got chills over the vaccine, Scott. Yep. What the heck is going on? Oh, I don't know.
Did it say in the book how long she had been there?
Not now.
Not now.
She said 12 years. I thought
she said I'm thinking of the time she came from or whatever. Because I think she brings that up, right? The year.
60 something or 70 something.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm remembering something different.
There is a later time where
she gives a number. She gives like 1, 9 and then a 7 something to Dougal, and he has to repeat it over and over again and tell Claire the number.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I remember the 12 years because when she first met her, she said something. She was talking about something that was happening 12 years ago, when she's like, when I was here 12 years ago, something happening in the square. I forget what it was, but that's when I'm like, oh, okay, she's been here for a while.
Okay.
Maybe after 12 years, she was just like, God, I don't care anymore. I'll do whatever I can.
I forget how many husbands she's had at that point. She's not a lot of husbands. She's a Black Widow. Yeah,
She's-
Gillis is, again, I have so much of Lottie in my head, and I love that. Like, I love her. So I really have to, like, what is Book Galis like? And it is kind of interesting to me, too, because I don't feel like Claire really does, like, trust her that much. I think that feels that bit of kinship between her and that, but I don't think Claire ever really, like, trusts her. And then they're both in this situation. And now here we are. Now we're at the witch trials. So I asked this, I was being a little bit snarky. I was like, why don't you think Claire could keep her mouth shut? Would you do some of the things she did and end up being burned on a pyre?
Like, does she ever learn?
I mean, she could have
Shut
kept her mouth shut. She still would have been tossed in the water,
know.
you know,
Yeah.
no
Well,
matter what
because
she did.
Oh, okay. Steph's getting your charger there real quick. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because I think it all snowballs on her really quickly with who's trying to like take her out, because it's like, yes, she's already got some suspicion for her standing up for certain people, but then I don't think it would have went to where it goes if there wasn't the like okay of Colum. Like Colum's kind of okay with it happening now that like Jamie's gone. So he's like, oh, if it happens, I'll have my hands clean of like, she was a strange one. She was a strange one. You know, with Jamie.
That's why I always felt fishy, like just like against Colin, because I felt like he hid his like, and I Dougal's just all out there showing you his deviousness.
Colin's a little more sneaky about it.
Those Mackenzie brothers are a shifty lot. For sure. He just is more like, he's more sneaky and diplomatic about it since he's the Laird, you know. So he's a little more sneaky about it. But I mean, that wouldn't have been able to happen to her if he didn't like let it happen. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they had his kind of like blessing to do that because they were already going to be coming for Galis because of her husband.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and then when, you know, like Leary tricks her to be there too, it's like, oh, well, we'll just scoop you up with this and nobody's stopping you. Because he didn't even want Ned to be the lawyer for her. But Ned was like, I'm doing this, you know, like you don't.
That's why I love Ned, because it was like he just.
Yeah, like he doesn't own Ned, even though like, you know, like Ned gets to do this. So Galis reminds me of some radical religious cults. Yeah. She definitely would be a religious. I mean, she is a religious extremist. Like, well,
she's the Jacobite, like, you know.
They basically were there. I love the part where she drugged Claire and was asking her who she is and why she's there. Oh yeah, she does that. When does she do that? Did I miss that?
Yeah, she does.
Right before the dinner.
It was right before.
Poisoned. She was there, like, and she was trying to basically hypnotize her or something like that. Yeah.
So true. Yep. What do you all think G's motivation to admit to being a witch to get Claire off the hook after Jamie shows up? Well, Jen, I can't remember if you know more than this book. Because, like, I know why. Like, she was pretty sure. Well, Dougal kind of says it. So I guess we can say this. Like, Dougal, like, they know she's pregnant. And, like, Dougal, like, they don't kill her right then. I mean, Dougal said she was, like, still killed after the baby was born. But, like, they don't kill her because she's pregnant. So I think she did kind of know that they wouldn't kill her right then. I don't know. I feel like she knew they wouldn't kill her right then. And she's a slippery one. So it's like, you know, if they don't kill me right now, I have a chance to get out. And that's how I. But anyway, again, it's difficult to divorce what I know from the show. I kept picturing Colum as Denethor from Lord of the Rings. Oh, man, I'm so bad with names. I'm sure I'll recognize it. Maybe she's hoping Claire can warn her in the future. Oh, like find a way back and Gailey could avoid traveling herself. IDK. Oh, I mean, yeah, maybe.
I think that was the nicest thing Galis has done.
Right.
Letting Claire out.
Yeah. It's a very interesting situation. It really is. But when I gotta tell you, it still does like panic me so, like when they start whipping her. It also is a very it also is a very interesting parallel of like the difference of when Jamie was disciplining her and when she's being whipped in front of everyone to be like
Yeah.
it's a very different situation. And yeah, this is when someone said this way earlier, right? They said the witch trials is when they got their hero vibes from Jamie. And he does have the best like white knight coming in and is just like such a good scene where he is like, God gave her to me, and if you think you're higher than him, I have a thing to say about. Like, I love that. And it's like you'll have to get caught up with him. I love it.
I couldn't blame Claire for, not keeping her mouth shut at a witch trial. Like, I can imagine how being attacked publicly by everyone, how infuriating that is, when you're not what they say you are. And then at the same time, I think, oh God, what's her name? Galis just kind of felt that there's a sense of like trauma connectedness, kind of like a little bit of a hint of like female camaraderie, like kind of a thing in that moment when she took that. So that's kind of how that felt.
Yeah, I'll just see it. Galis.
Do we know at what point Galis knew that Claire was from the future? Because I didn't get it from the books when I was reading.
Oh, that's a good point.
I didn't either.
Isn't there a reference she makes? I think she kind of gets it of like when she does her curses that she does, because she'll say Jesus H. Roosevelt Christ.
Okay.
Like Galis.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's something I pick up of like, that's something that you wouldn't know. Like you couldn't know to say H. Roosevelt if you hadn't lived through that. So she knows she's at least from after that, right? Because
Yeah.
I think she
like makes her look in the water and like bewitches her a little bit. Asks her, where are you from? What time are you from? Those things.
Did she answer her?
No,
I don't know.
She didn't.
We were just talking about that while you were moving.
Oh,
there.
sorry.
No.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't answer. But I think.
Yeah, she just got away.
Just knew that she wasn't from that time.
I guess she does a lot of strange things, Like she was like horrified at a Tanner's boy who got the ear,
Yeah, she
hammered.
just. Yeah, I agree with Amanda here, where she's like she was testing her because there's so many like how Claire would react to stuff, and then Claire would be like, "But this," and she's like, "Yeah, but they do that here," I don't know. She's a smart woman. She's a smart woman. And yep, this was good when Claire says the Nathan Harrow quote. And I think she definitely had the suspicions before, though, but Lisa points that out. Yep. I don't think that Galis saw her scar. Jamie knows about her scar, Sunny. But I think it's some of the other things she said where she knows.
The scar is how Claire knew that she was from the future.
Yeah, that's how she knew. Am I wrong? Or did Claire do some humming around her? Maybe when they were doing something. I don't know. I honestly wish I'd pay more attention. I don't know. I just figured she kind of picked it up from...
Oh, did she like hum like a song from a popular band or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I vaguely recall something like that.
Could be.
There's in a different book when someone knows someone based on a band and of someone. But
oh yeah.
About this one, there's one where Paul McCartney is brought up at some point in the future. Cool. Anyway, either way, so that's Galis, who feels like it's a very quick use of her. Oop. But
did you know that she's based on a real woman in history?
The
Galis Duncan.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
She's a real woman in history who was burned or hanged for witchcraft in Scotland.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Like it. Thank you for
dropping the knowledge.
There's my random bit of knowledge.
All right. Sorry, I'll keep us moving. I know it's very late for some people. Okay, so then we get to the part she finally tells him everything and he believes her. It's Ringo. Thanks, Claudia. It's Ringo Starr. You're correct. Sorry. So she finally tells him, and he's like open about it, where he's like, okay, I just need to know so that I can protect us. Just tell me, are you a witch? And she's like, are you kidding me? He's like, you have the same scar. Like, and she's like, okay, time to tell you. And so he tells it all. So what do we think of that? Do you think it was the right time now?
Yeah, I actually really loved it because I remember even just the first time reading it and, watching the show and stuff, you're always expected to be like dragged out forever, the secret, and so I love that it actually happened even though it's a long book, pretty quickly in the story, and that he was just so accepting and trusting of her that he just completely believed her, made me love Jamie more. So
me too. Well, I love it. I think I heard this in like an interview with one of the cast about this, which I love. But it's like, because Jamie's from the time he's from, he does believe in a little bit of magical things and in that. So he, of course, he can't even like comprehend fully what she means by it, but he's also like, okay, I trust you,
Well, and with everything that she knows and tells him,
right?
It would be kind of hard not to believe.
I love some details. Like, I know who Jack Randall was. I know the day he was born and the day he
I
was
love that.
I love that stuff so much. I love it so much. But also then how horrible he feels then about, you just wanted to go home. And I like did that. Like, I love him so much. I love him so much.
And then he brings her to cry. Oh my gosh. I was just
I know.
Oh my God. I'm like,
and he
I
brings
love
her
you,
there and he
Katie.
says, no one's going to hurt you. I'll stay till the morning. And he's like, there's nothing for you. I'm a fugitive. I don't have anything to offer you. It's dangerous. Go home. Go home. And that is such a sacrifice because we know how much he loves her. We know that he's in. He's already been, and this was a clear moment for me because, like, I became aware of it this time around. Don't know why I've never noticed it before. Claire never says she loves him until the end of this book.
Yeah.
She said she
I
loves
love
him.
they were laughing. She said, "Oh, I love you, Jamie." Like, they're laughing.
Remember when
like he said,
when she was telling her the stories of how he got beat up, as a child.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, I love you, Jamie," and then he started laughing.
Yeah. So,
but I guess that's not the sort of
it's
romantic.
not
real like our late
I love you.
It doesn't feel intimate. I love you.
Yeah, it's not the same one. But I love when he takes her there and he's like, and also it's such a thing of faith of him because he's like, okay, if this is where you say it is, that makes sense. He knows she tried to run to it, so he's like, okay, I'll take you there. And he takes her there, and then and he goes and like cries himself to sleep down there
in that little like cabin thing.
I know. And then she comes back and is like,
and he was just willing to give her up if it meant she would be safe and happy.
I know.
Who wouldn't love
and
that?
I will tell you again and again, Jamie's willing to send her to safety. And I gotta tell you, there's somebody else who's not willing to do that.
Yeah.
Again and again, Jamie's willing to do what's best for her because he loves her so much. And also, too, like, he is aware how much more dangerous his time is. Because from the stuff she says, like, she hasn't had to deal with this stuff. She has lived through war, but, like, it's not the same as, like, war every day. I'm, like, having to worry about it. And, he knows Blackjack is really going to be after him now, too. Like, there's so much danger that he's in. His own family wants him dead. Like, just all of this stuff. And then, this is the moment. This is the moment where she chooses him. And I love it because this is where I said, like, all these wonderful things have happened from her. And she still was, like, ready to leave. But it's this, when he actually takes her there, that she's like, I can't imagine not having you. Like, she does the whole, like, comparing both marriages, comparing all of the things. And it's like, I know what I'm going to miss forever if I don't have it. And it's this. In this short, brief time, like, I missed it. I would miss him more than I did in the, like, 4 years of not seeing Frank all the time. It's like she knows. And I don't know. To me, that's why this whole story is a soulmate thing. Because for her to be at the Springs on the right day to go back to him, I just love it so much. So it's beautiful. She chooses to stay. So yeah, I love it. Love you.
I'll be right back. I gotta get my charger.
Okay. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are probably dying because we're talking too long. Okay. We'll keep moving. But I got this for the first time reading. She was in love at this point. That's true. Because I read it, I was like, this is when she really is like, I'm here to stay. So, okay, we'll move along quick because we can get through these next parts faster till we get to the dramatic ending. So let's talk about Lallybroch. Who is, how do we feel about the occupants of Lallybroch? And what do we think of the other Frasers that we meet?
Oh, I love them.
Love them so much.
Steph, who's your favorite?
The real one true family that he has. Yeah.
You're so quiet, so.
I think it's Ian because
Yeah.
he's just so calm and he's so into Jenny and he just wants to support her and be his best self, and I
he's
just
so
love that.
good.
Yeah,
I love him
So,
so much.
it's
Me
great.
too. He's my
I love
favorite too.
Ian.
Yeah.
He's just so, he's another one. I exactly picture the man from the actor. I see him.
Yeah.
He's the perfect casting for this. Oh my God, I love him. And I just love how he is like, yep, being married to Frasers, huh? It's a real ride, man.
It's like let them fight it out. It will be okay.
I will say too, though, this gives us kind of some darker sides to Jamie here. Not darker is the wrong thing, but his more like, I don't know, bratty side, the uglier side. I don't know what else to say, but I think there's something to say for like Jenny and him really like, you know, the way he's accusing his sister of like having like kept her bastard child and like just
Calling
all
her a whore and stuff.
yeah.
But it's just like, it's like how siblings fight. Like
Oh,
Claire goes and like it's like brother and sister just.
Mhm.
It is, but we see him be like kind of petty in here and try to be too cocky. Like it's some of the times we see him not act right. Like for the whole like past of this, he's so on it. And now here trying to fill his dad's shoes, he loses it, you know, when he's not being himself when he tries to do these things. And that's when we see him like not fall apart, but he loses a little bit of the
I
shine.
think he's trying to be the big brother, you know.
But
He's
he's
trying
the
to
younger
show
one.
Claire
And he's
that,
not, yeah.
well, he's trying to be
Yeah.
like
Well, and
a
he feels
big
so
brother and
guilty.
protect her and trying to show Claire that he, can take care of his family and all
Yeah.
that jazz. So he's trying to put on that front of like, I'm the big man of the house. And
Yeah. It is frustrating to me, though,
backfires.
that he won't believe her that she wasn't raped. Like, it takes him so long to believe that because he saw her taken in there. And it's like, it's kind of him being like, I know Blackjack. He definitely did this, you know?
Yeah.
But I love when she tells how she got out. And that's a scene from the show, too. I'll always live in there. And
Yeah,
sadly, that the first and like only peens we ever see in the show are all like Blackjack Randall peen. I don't want to see that. I'm just being real. Throughout the whole show, which peens do we see?
What's
I
the
like
actress
Well,
name?
Jenny just like he shows like she puts Jamie in his place, and I love that. Like as a sibling, how that happens, and you see a different side of Jamie. So I just thought their whole fight was just funny, and that's just hilarious.
Oh, Amanda did read Virgins first. That's awesome. Was wondering where Ian was. Love it. That is
What's
when
her
Ian
name?
and Jamie are in France, I believe. We get to see some.
Outlander Lala.
Yeah. But fair, we are different people around or something. Yep, this is true. But that's like how I kind of read it, is that he's trying to be someone that he's not, even though he's trying to do good things. That's not the way that he would be layered. He's trying to be it the way that his like dad would be. And it causes a lot of problems. It doesn't go so well where he does that. But yes, the scenes with the Fred flannels, love it. That's a classic scene I love this scene in the show too. I do. It's like brilliant. But yeah, and of course Jenny and Claire have that's gonna be tough. It's two strong ladies, but we have this was the first scene of Outlander that Diana wrote, I believe. It wasn't an Outlander scene yet, but she wrote a birth scene to explain what like birth felt to someone. She wrote the scene of like when she's explaining birth or whatever, before it was ever Outlander. That's a fun tidbit. But yep. I also will say that like Claire was not super confident with this birth in the book. That is not how it's portrayed in other places. Like she's not a midwife. She's you're a nurse. She's working on soldiers. She wasn't working on babies all the time. So they do have some help getting the baby out. So I like that. But then we have the discussion, which is a complete contrast to the discussion with Frank about babies, where he was like, I don't want you to have a baby because I can't bear to see you in pain. And I mean, I don't think Frank like wants to see Claire in pain, but he's so single-minded about wanting a child to continue his line. And where Jamie's just like, I don't care. There'd be someone to take over. I'd rather have you. And I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. He's like, I'd rather have you. So.
And I think it means more. I think it means more because during the 1700s, I think having like someone to pass down your like property was like so much more important, right? Than like 1940s, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But I think Frank had such that focus to his history and genealogy that it kind of shows the fact that he also wanted to carry that forward, like his DNA kind of thing. So it's very interesting, that contrast between him and Jamie.
Yeah. It's also very interesting to me that like Jamie being the man, like in the past, he's very much about like living for now. Like he's very much a like what we have to do to survive now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think like that type of man of action of like, what's the task in front of me? What's the thing I need to do for this, you know? So.
But I think that's also more a thing of their time, living in the now, just getting
they never
through,
knew when they
surviving.
were going to die.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're just trying to survive.
Yep.
Today we have too much time to think about stuff, about the past, the future, whatever.
Okay, now we get to my self-indulgent favorite part of this. And there's this beautiful, beautiful discussion between Jamie and Claire. Well, it's beautiful to me. And Claire is saying that Jamie was like born to be a laird despite how he feels inadequate. He's like, that's something that makes a good leader. And one of my favorite quotes, which I won't try to read it in Scottish because it will just make us laugh. But Jamie says to her, and you, my Sassenach, what were you born for? To be the lady of a manor, or to sleep in fields like a gypsy? To be a healer or a don's wife or an outlaw's lady? And Claire said to him, I was born for you. This is a Fated Mates book. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I love it when Claire shows her vulnerability because she doesn't do that. And so when she starts to do it, when Jamie's been doing it the whole time, it's like, thank you. That's part of the reason I love prickly heroines too, that are, you know, those tough heroines, because it's like now she's showing like how much she loves him and her vulnerable side. And I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it because it's her like acknowledging too that like, I don't know how I ended up here. I don't know what's happening. But even to her, she's kind of like, I must be meant for this man because I ended up here. I don't know. It's not like said. But to me, I read it that way of like, she's decided to stay here and she just realizes like, I don't know. She's not overly emotional even in her like writing because she's so, but to me, that's such a, she sees it too. And I love that she's just like, no, like I was made for you. I'm seeing that now. I see it. So it's fine. It's our last ooey moment we're gonna have for a while because
the horrible part comes up.
Yep. We have did someone say something about this? Sorry. I was ready to pushing us forward because here we go. Yes, it means much coming from Jamie because we know he imagined having children, but he loves Claire that he doesn't care. That's right. It's beautiful. I love it so much. Okay, and they're answering questions about the show, so I don't need to. We'll move on. So then we have the shortest part, of course, because sometimes Diana will do this. You'll see throughout the books, sometimes there will be one chapter. That's one part. It was also the chat, like we didn't do it, but the part about the witch trial is only 2 chapters, and one of them is literally like 50 pages long. It's so long. But okay, so now, yeah, we have anyway, Jamie ends up missing. We won't go through like all the details of this because we need to get where we're going with it. But we get paired up with Murtaugh now for a while, who has been kind of we see a few things from him, but he's really this like silent watch this whole time. He's not even like really like shown too much, but he does show up in. Does he show up in this chapter or is it right before? Like I know he gets there because he's like been doing some of his stuff and then he showed up there at some point. But Jenny like goes with to start with, which I just can't. I don't care. I can't take that as real that she gave birth 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it was 2 weeks.
Do not. And she had
2
a
weeks,
breech
but still.
birth. Yeah. I'm like, she had a breech birth though.
And I was like, she must be
You're
the
not
most
riding a horse.
badass woman I know.
I
But
just
it's
think
kind of
how
creepy.
my
Like I know there's women that
feels
do
riding
that
a
can do
horse.
that.
Like I ride a horse for 2 hours and my coochie's sore. Like imagine if a baby came out of it. I don't know, man. I don't know. But anyway, so we learn a little bit about Murtaugh. So yeah, what do you guys think of him? What do you think of Murtaugh?
I love him so much.
Me too.
And
Yeah, I love him.
The
He's
Murtaugh
like a silent protector kind of guy, which is really awesome to see.
He has some great punchlines. He's funny.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like what you call it, something very undercurrent, like you don't see like she like realizing like the necklace or something, the bracelets. Like he's something like he's silent, but he's like there's something undercurrent, which is really makes him like even more lovable because he's such a silent and protector. But yet you could tell he probably feels deeply in the undercurrent. So, which I like.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that, Lisa. Lisa's keeping on track where things merge in my mind. She's been pointing out those things
Oh, I
for me.
thought she did because they like pushed on her belly a lot during.
They turned the baby. Yeah.
They turned the baby. That's what I remember from the book.
Maybe they turned it out of breach, so that she just never breached.
Yeah,
That's
it was in breach, and they turned it.
They
And
turned it by pushing on her belly during.
Yeah.
And
that's
Jenny
why I was thinking
wanted
breach.
to push,
Like,
but they told her not to. But she still pushed, and then the baby just came out.
Yeah. That's where I was.
And the horse was breach too, wasn't it?
Who?
The horse.
The horse birth too was also kind
yeah.
of breach a little bit too. I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary thing, man. So, oh, come on, computer, you're okay. And then, okay, so then we find out where he is, and then we get into the toughest part of the story. So most of my questions that I had were focusing on the kind of our like reactions to this, but I just kind of want to know how people who hadn't read this before and possibly hadn't even seen the show either, but even if you have seen the show, like then what the comparison for you was. Because I had a different experience this time, like really, as I said, really trying to focus on what the book was saying about this scene and not just putting in the powerful performance that I have burned into my memory. Because there are still obviously certain beats that they hit the same, but it is delivered in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, you know, like, I mean, in the show, yes, we see him like after and we reflect back, but we hear it through his like words in the book. Like it's him telling it. And I think that was, I mean, it's still really hard to see, but it's also not as graphic as like when you watch it. If you've watched the show, you know, again, like I can see the blood and I can see the dead eye. Like I can go right back. I don't need to go. But like reading in the book and like trying to read more of the, like Jamie is just like purging out everything. There's just so many sadistic layers to this motherfucker. I just can't.
Yeah.
Oh, bad. So kind of the questions that I have with this one were to do with like how you think about how Diana wrote it, and then also the things about like what actually happened is how I break it up. Because again, the other thing that we see lots and lots of reviews about is people saying just how like over the top it is and how awful this is. And my feeling has always been, and I think too, you know, when this book came out, how few male assaults were gone into in this detail and discussed. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, women are usually writing the books and they're sharing like what their experience of it is. And also, you know, we hear more about women assaults. But yeah, it's just, I feel like they're, you know, men are so much less to talk about it anyway. And I think that's something that sets the, in my opinion, the whole Outlander series apart, is that men's trauma for this type of stuff is looked at just as much as a woman's is. Because again, when I talk about parts of the story that are cornerstones in the rest of the series, this assault is one of them, because it's something that will haunt him until forever. Like, this will come up in every book. At some point it comes up, and we see the different phases in his life about how he is about this. And yeah, so anyway, we have threats of assault this whole way through, and all those threats are all to Claire, but the actual rape in this is his. And anyway, just want to see.
I think what broke me the most is that he agreed to do it so that Claire could escape. And he felt so much pain for that. Like, he didn't understand that by him agreeing to that it was still rape. He felt like he was allowing it to happen to him. And that just broke me.
I think one of the hardest parts too is when like he brings up, you know, getting aroused, or like you don't have control over that, or he was envisioning Claire, and like where that, you know, so then it just traumatized him and made him like question himself and the whole event, and then intimacy in the future and being able to actually be intimate with Claire again after that. Like, it's just so, there's so many layers to that it's just, I think it's really well done to be able to talk about those kinds of things. And especially since we don't get, like you're saying, male sexual assault like in books that much, you know? And so it was just, it's so bad. I kind of forgot about the blood stuff and all the different, you know, things too, that I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember watching that scene with my mother, and it was so difficult.
Yeah. I think I did too. I think I watched it the show with my mom.
And I think I agree with Amanda's comment too, but it was just interesting because, not good interesting, but he was doing it to protect her, because he said it's worse if it was happening to her for him. If she was in pain, and like that is just like, that hurt. And then his shame that he felt, because he's like, I would rather die, because then it's like, how can I move forward with you in that whole, you know, how can I recover? And like, he feels like he betrayed her. And I feel like that's also very symbiotic to how a woman feels at the same time as well, being essayed. I'm like, that is like, we're all we're humans, and that is like, that was such a deep connection, I thought, with that part.
Yeah.
Well, and what too, I think even makes Jack like the sadist he is because he in a lot of levels knows that, like, he didn't just take him and rape him, which is what Jamie thought it would be. He thought he was gonna fuck him and then kill him. That's what he thought was gonna happen. And Blackjack was, no, I'm really gonna fuck with your head, because he's a sadist. He wasn't just trying to get pleasure of his body out of it. He wanted to see how much pain that it caused, and he wanted to make him think of Claire, and he
wanted him to tell him he loved him.
Yeah, yes, he wanted to tell him that. He did. He tried to
fulfill his own fantasy, whatever that weird psycho thing is.
Yeah, it's so, for Jack Randall, it has to do with power. Yeah, he's a power control rapist. Like, that's how that breaks down. He wants to break Jamie's ability to be somewhere else. Yes, he wouldn't let him stay gone. This is very true. So why too, I think all of those things are, I mean, of course, those are all like awful on its own. But one of the things I always like to point out too is that we see throughout the book that Jamie and Claire have a very physical relationship. And I don't just mean the sex. Obviously that happens at a point. But there's a point, one of my favorite little scenes is they're like bitching back and forth, and he's like, come here. And he like sets her on his lap, and he's like, okay, now we're touching. Let's try talking again. Like, he's able to perceive that like they're so like physically connected. And now even like her touch, and he's just like, he can't. And he doesn't want to live if he can't have that. It's not, you know, it's so many levels of broken. It isn't just one thing. It's like everything about his relationship with Claire, Blackjack was attacking that. He was just attacking that so that he wouldn't just be broken. He would have like nothing, you know, and he almost succeeds. Like, he almost succeeds at that. And it's so hard to watch, right? So then we have what Claire's length she goes to ransom his soul, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I totally forgot about seeing how far it went, even though, again, I know this happens in the show too. I remembered it later, but when she is like, okay, I'm going to now replace that, but we have to purge it first. And so when she like, where Blackjack pretended like to be her, she pretends to be him. And that is a very disturbing scene. Very disturbing to me, but why she thinks that will work, I don't know.
It was hard to read.
Yeah, that was like, whoa. I kind of forgot about that when I was in it, I was like, okay, this is yikes.
Yeah, it is. And
traumatizing.
This is fair of like Amanda to say, because it is kind of confusing what she thinks she's doing. And to me, like, please, anyone else read this how you want. But this time I was really trying to see like what's she doing? And the way that I was reading it this time, this is how I was reading it, is that Jamie is confusing her with him because that's what Jack did. So she like pretends to be him to work this out. And either Jamie's going to kill her because he thinks she's him, or he's going to stop himself and realize it's Claire. And then he's going to know it's Claire and not him. That's how I was like reading it. That doesn't make sense. That's not clinically approved. But it's like, he did those things. Blackjack did those things to fuck him up. So she's like, he knows it's me. Like, his soul knows mine. And she literally is like, she is like speaking to the effigy almost of Blackjack, and is like, you can't have him. He's mine. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, she makes
it was like her last ditch effort too. She knew like she's going to lose him if she doesn't do this. And that so just like, well, this is the last ditch effort.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, she like makes him realize it's her. That's what I like took from it. I don't fully know how she meant it to be, but that's kind of how I took it, is that she made him realize it was her. Because otherwise, like, she was like, if you're going to kill me, like, we're going. Because I'm not going to be with you and you can't be with me. Like, we're going to make it happen. And then there's the final layer of it where he's like ready to come out of it, but he has to prove that he can have intimacy with her and it'd be okay. Now, I want to just address something else, because when some people were talking in Discord, some people were like, I think he gets over this too fast. This is too much. Like, I can't, like, how can you just be over it? And I did tell some people, I was like, he's not over it. It
lasts a long time.
It is not over.
Yeah.
This was just him deciding he would live. Like, this is him choosing to accept medicine and accept food to come back. He's not fixed because he could fuck her on the bed, like, because he could do that. He just needed to prove that his body could be aroused for his wife, and they could do that, and it would work. And then it is not fixed. It was
one hurdle he had to get over.
It was literally to ransom the man's soul. Like, he was at death's door. Like, the priest giving him his last rites, which I believe, like, because it's his uncle is one of the priests there, one of the uncles is there. And like, they're like giving him last rites pretty much. And she's like, well, this makes no sense. This was not psychologically approved. And this is fair. Of course, it's not going to work in the real world. She's not a therapist who's helping with something. This is the like instinctual animal parts of them where she's like, this is mine. He's my man. We're one. I am going to save you. And they'll do that for each other.
But with
And she was
Diana
so
researching
desperate, you know?
everything,
Oh, wait, go ahead,
it's
Steph.
just with her researching everything, it makes me wonder if she got it somewhere out of some kind of psychological, how do you call it? Some
Sure.
kind of book about
Sure.
this kind of thing. But way back in the 90s, because they had some fucked up shit then with therapy.
Yeah.
So it could have been they did some crazy shit.
It's some
so,
shock. It's a shock therapy to get him out of his
just,
like cycle
know,
in his head.
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. Because didn't she like use cold water or something as well? Like the water and the like smells and
Yeah.
Yeah, she was doing something with the
took something
smells to go to that moment or whatever
Yeah.
with Jack.
like a
Take it
little
back.
bit of weird ass EMDR kind of therapy with him.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe it gave me without really knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I will co-sign this. It is weird. I don't fully know why it works, Liza. It's strange. We can all agree that it was strange. But when I take it in the context of like, that's what I take as the meaning of the scene. Whether I understand all the details of what she's doing to do it, I take it as her like, you know, fighting for him and like proving to him that he will recognize her when it's really her. And
Yeah.
that's what I saw of it, is like he knows it's really her. And then he proves with, you know, to himself that he literally crawls in there to be able to have sex with her. And he's like, okay, I could do that still. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me feel better, but at least
It's kind of like when you fall off the horse, you got to get back on it. Otherwise, you'll never get back on it.
that's not always gonna work, you know. But that is something we'll see. Some stuff in this is something we'll see echoed for other things. But I think it's significant to me, and it's why, again, I kind of fight back. Well, I'll fight for this book any day. But it's why I fight back when people say this is just all about women being assaulted. And I'm like, no, my friends. This series as a whole has a very equal amount of assault happening.
Trauma.
I just want to say that. It's trauma for everyone. Yes, you could say there's lots of trauma, but there's lots of trauma throughout all time and in all worlds and in all places, because humans suck. Just as wonderful as humans are, they're just as evil. So, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's the
it's also not
1700s. They don't have
romanticized.
much to keep them entertained. So,
Yeah.
hurting other people was it.
All right. So, are there any? We'll kind of wrap this up now. I know I'm over 2 hours for everybody. I knew it was gonna happen. It's just, all of these are going to be long, folks. They're going to be long. We didn't even talk about every little thing. Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. That's just what I take what she's trying to do. They have an animal connection that they will recognize each other no matter when, and she's not going to let him take it, man. She's not going to take it. Trademark. Trauma forever. I mean, it's true. To be honest, when I look, I think there's only one main cast person in current that hasn't been assaulted. And they were assaulted in a different way other than a rape. But everyone has been at some point in the series. It'll happen to different degrees and for different reasons, but everybody gets it at some point. And Jamie, being the first one to go through it, is also the one who gets consulted. And when people need therapy, they will talk to him. So he's our who we go to for advice about how did you get over it. And he's like, guess what? You don't get over it. I still wake up in the prison sometimes. Like, it's just, I don't know. And that's why, like, people say it's gratuitous. And I'm like, but what? Assault is gratuitous. Like, it literally is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think she is doing it for she's not doing it for gore. She's sharing with you his experience as she shares it and like what that would be. So yeah, super.
It's also like an interest. I think the author's also just trying to show the difference between that time and in the past, and kind of showing how the past can be romanticized. And again, it's just showing the reality, like how life probably was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there is a lot to say of, we mentioned it briefly, of that him also, that he agreed to it, and him, you know, he would trade anything for her, like he was already just willing to give her up for her to go back to her husband. And now he's literally like, I'm going to die. I'm dying. So live. Like, that he's already like, oh, here. We didn't even touch on Dougal trying to scoop her up and marry her because we had to move along. But Dougal trying to marry her.
That scene was like,
Ugh,
Oh my gosh.
that was
Okay.
cringy.
Give her your uncle vibes.
Okay.
Creepy
So,
uncle.
okay. So now we're at the end of this one. We find out that she's pregnant. We're in France, by the way. I forget. Like we're in France at this because they travel to get to that. That's something that show does like backwards. So I'm always confused until I read this that like they had to get out. They had to leave before he could be holed up somewhere. So they like left already. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's very like seasick. Or do they heal him and then he goes on it? Either way,
No.
they end this at France, right?
He's I think they're shipping in France or at a monastery in France because he's like, I remember the seasickness.
They set his
had.
hand.
Yeah, that's why I
He
was
set his
confused.
hand in England. Then they go on the ship, and there he gets sicker, and he wants to die. That's
Thank
what
you.
happens.
Yeah. I knew that like we're in France by the end of this book, but I know, and I remembered him being sick too. Yeah, Jamie will always be seasick.
And also him saying he doesn't want to live anymore. I think it was also partly fever already, but Claire didn't really notice it. Because
Yeah.
he said that thing, then she went away to the monastery to pray, and then she came back and he was really feverish and everything festered. So I think that did play a role in him saying he didn't want to live anymore because he was ailing.
That's right. Wanted to fight them so badly. I know. Whatever. People can feel what they want to feel, but they're wrong. Okay. They're wrong.
It feels uncomfortable, and that was one part of it. It's like, wow, there's a lot of great things happening in here. I'm like, this is a lot. Though I'm like, I can see their point when they feel like it's gratuitous, but at the same time, when I think about it, I'm like, it's but how reality is.
Like, too, so many people say there's so much like there's really mostly a lot of threat of assault. It's used as a power move over and over, like through this book. There's lots of threat of assault, lots of like it's going to happen. And it honestly too, it's also like, I gotta say this, like Claire gets rescued every time, and then Jamie rescues her the final time at the cost of himself. Like she's let's just say that. Like she's almost assaulted. Well, she does get kind of assaulted by Jack in the way he's like taking her clothes off already, but at the cost of himself, he rescues her that time. So when people want to say these are gratuitously rapey, I'm like, they're not really. She doesn't just throw it in everywhere. There is the threat of it because power, like stupid Jackie people use the threat of assault as a power move. It's not always just for wanting to do that. It's always a power move. It's a threat.
And also to show how they thought about Scottish people in that time, the English. They saw them as less, and the redcoats thought that she was a Scottish woman, so they wanted to rape her from the start because, well, he was a budding idiot and she was just a lass laying on her back.
Yeah.
It's to show what they thought of them. They were less to them in that time.
Wow.
Well, I think that you mentioned in the book too that they suspect that maybe that's why he was giving kind of full carte blanche to how he was, so that the Scottish would resent the English and so start the uprising. So I think that was mentioned that they wanted that to happen.
Yeah. It isn't gratuitous because it's an integral part. Yes, very true.
I never felt like Diana made it like for shock value. Like some authors, they throw in really gratuitous scenes just for shock value.
Well,
I never felt like she did it with that.
Because this was always my argument against that, is the fact that it has weight. If it was gratuitous, it means we see a rape and then we never talk about it again. It was only in there to titillate, or it was there. Like the assault is so heavy. Like it is dealt with, and it is all, and anytime a character will actually be raped, not the threat of it, not of that, but like anytime like it's a big deal. Like we will deal with it. And that's why I don't think it's gratuitous. It's fine if people don't want to read that. I don't want people to be traumatized by that, but she's going to deal with it,
Yeah, and they actually show the trauma and show the aftermath and all of that instead of it like being raped and then, oh, I kind of whatever, move on, which you see in books. It's like it's showing the real impact that sexual assault has on people, and to show that what it has an effect on a man, you know, who's like this manly man. And, you know, like I think that's super important because we don't always see that.
Yeah. And in this one, it was a very like a violent assault. There is a future assault of a male where he is aroused the whole time and it's still unwilling. And that's a different discussion to have, how he feels like he deserved it completely because it wasn't an assault by a man. It's an assault by a woman later. Like there's so many different times that can happen and they're all traumatizing, no matter whether it was this level of like trying to destroy you or whether it was just like, oh, you want it, it's fine, you know, like it's still, or whether you have to submit to it. There's plenty of women who have to make that choice and it doesn't mean that they wanted it. And to see that happen to a man and what it is, I think is important. So, okay, I really, really mean it now. Let's wrap this up so we're done after 2.5 hours. So how are you feeling at the end of this book? If it was your first time reading this, you know, how, like, I know the pacing can be tough for people. Is there anyone who isn't sure they want to continue? Can we convince you? Like, how's everybody feeling? Because there was some people that weren't sure. And I was like, I totally get it. Because if you're not liking the style, if you're not liking how it is, most of the books are going to kind of be like this. These are historical fiction. I call them historical romance because the romance is the point for me.
I'm going to be honest with you too. Some of the books are so much more slow and boring. If you thought this one was slow and boring, there are some of them that are worse.
There are.
Just to be honest with y'all.
Yeah. I'm a huge history lover, so I get through on that, but not everyone will. And these are technically just in the fiction section at Barnes & Noble. They're not romance. It's me. It's me who makes it romantic. So.
It's a different pace.
It's Jamie.
Yeah, it's Jamie. And I'm saying, and Roger. I love Roger. Book Roger is my number 2 man. I love him. I adore him. We will get there soon. He's literally like, he's equally swoony to me. No, he's not equally. He's like very close to me.
I just wish the show Roger was like.
We won't talk about it.
Yeah.
He's so dull.
Like, I don't get it.
Also,
not the manly man I was envisioning.
Also, a character who's grown on me eventually. It took a long time. Okay.
The actor is nice, which helps.
If I hadn't committed to the series, I would actually say this ended happily enough. I mean, that's fair. It was kind of an ending in its original form. It was meant to be that.
Yeah.
But and that is true. That's another point to do. If you just wanted to read Outlander, you want to know this, you can read this and stop here, and they have a happily ever after. She's pregnant. They have their baby. You could just think that it just all worked out. It just all went fine.
Okay. So the technical side was hard for me, but I used to read historical fiction back in the day, and I'm like, oh, I remember this. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of angst and things probably to come. So I'm just interested to stay and see how it all progresses, and just also to see the source material versus my experience with the show. And kind of like now I want to watch season 1 and compare. So, and that's how I kind of want to maybe try to do that.
Crystal, I just want you to
show
so you get to my favorite book in the series, which is Voyager.
Voyager. Okay.
I just want you to be ready for that.
I was gonna grab something. I was gonna grab something. Quick, hold on. Anyone who's next? Someone says, super ready to start Dragonfly and Amber. This is the first time I read it, it took me 3 or 4 tries. Fair enough. Yep. Know what
Dragonfly and Amber was always my least favorite of the series.
Oh, see, I think it is very well done.
So I feel like I'm hoping that knowing what I know about it, that I can like appreciate it more the second time. So I always say this book, this is the pretty cover. This book is the reason why I never read the series like before I heard about the books. Because here's what, for all of us, here's our little bit of a preview of what's next. The back of this book says, for 20 years, Claire Randall has kept her secrets. And I was like, fuck off. I'm not reading this. I was so mad. And it's like, but now she's returning with her grown daughter to Scotland. And I was like, what's happening?
I was so mad. But anyway, we'll see how it works out. This book
Yeah,
is just,
I got like mad when I was reading it in the past because I only read like a few books, and then I got like overwhelmed and they were long, and I just gave up. Especially with like whenever Claire starts with JB, I'm like,
and also where this one starts with a new POV. If anyone doesn't know, book 2 starts with a new POV. So
yay!
yeah.
I think I might have to do it on a Kindle because I got the mass market one. These are Bible thin pages, and the print is like the most tiniest thing in the world.
These ones are so hard to hold to. It's why like I did end up slowly collecting these ones so that I have a life.
Yeah, because I bought the mass market where it was like the 4 books together, and when I got it, and it was like, and they fit the whole page where there's nowhere to annotate if you want to annotate, and it was so tiny. I was like, I'm returning these. I'm getting the big one.
These have like big margins too, so I started buying these.
Is that tiny print, Jen? Is that tiny print on yours?
It's not too bad. Well, it's hard to show you. Like, it's not too bad because honestly, like the pages.
Yeah, like I got the bigger one, so it's like.
Yeah, there's not that many fewer pages, so it's like, it's still it's pretty decent sized writing. I mean, it's not large, but it's definitely bigger than this.
I remember tiny letters, really tiny letters.
I remember when I was reading the mass market.
Yeah.
I remember when I was reading the mass market books, like I was getting like carpal tunnel, like my wrists were hurting, you know.
Like especially my fiery cross was like off, you know, like the words were printed like into the crease of it.
Oh,
so I basically had to like break my spine to read the book. It was so annoying.
I don't know how I read those.
I have all 3 different. I got the ebook from my library, the audiobook from my library, and then a physical copy.
Susan, you're the real MVP, girl. I had to read.
Oh my god!
Oh, so just this is to you, girl. Mass market are difficult to read. Yeah. In the hardcover. Yeah. I definitely am glad that because I read them all as the mass market because they were the cheapest when I first started.
I forgot I had it on ebook, like on my Kindle too. So it was nice to be able to just highlight on my Kindle and then I can go to the book later, you know, and I was able to like do my Kindle and listen to the audiobook at the same time. And that way I didn't have to like hold the book, but I don't have the Dragonfly and Amber on Kindle. So I'm like, should I buy it when I just bought the book?
Right. Okay, a couple more things and we'll close this off. So was this like amount of time good? Like I did the 6 weeks, like was that good? I know it wasn't too short, but like it was a good amount of time. I have planned for 6 weeks for the next one as well. The next live show is planned for March 30th. So 6 weeks to read Dragonfly and Amber if you want to. And when it gets a little closer, I'll do the same thing. I'll put up a question box for who wants to be on. So maybe it'll be the same ladies, but if you're watching and you think we're not too scary and you'd like to be on here, be on the lookout. You're welcome. We'll trade out if we want to. But yeah, this was so fun. You guys are fulfilling my dreams. Thank you all for doing this with me. And I will have the discussion questions start going up in the Discord for the next one as well. And let's that one is, I'm sad already to read the next book, but yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for sticking it out. Steph, thanks for staying up till the middle of the night. You guys are wonderful. And